I'd like to call the March 5th meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. Can you call, Victor, can you do the call to order, please? Roll
Item
call.
number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. On the call to roll. Member Nee. Present. Nee present. Member Washburn. I was informed by Member Washburn that she may be delayed due to a work schedule. Member Pilpel. Member Pilpel did call and said he would not be at today's meeting. Member Sims.
Present.
Sims present. Member David.
Present.
David present. Member Highland.
Present.
Highland present. Member Oka. I believe that Mr. Oka stated that he would not be able to attend today's meeting at the last meeting. Member Fisher.
Present.
Fisher present. Chair Grant.
Present.
Grant present. We have a quorum.
Great. Does anyone have any agenda changes or anything they'd like to add or say about the agenda as is? If not, Victor, can you read the next item?
Item number 2, file number 13060.
I'm sorry. Item call to order. I'm sorry.
With respect to the call to order and the attendance being taken, that's part of item 1, not just the agenda changes. I would like to ask if anybody else is expected here, because you have the absolute minimum of 6 for a quorum, and as you know, that's a problem for folks who are looking to get an order of determination. It means that they need a 100% unanimity among those who are present.
Yeah. Right now, this is the quorum that we have, so we're going to move forward. Member Washburn is likely to, she was late, she had an assignment, so hopefully she'll be able to join us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item number 2, file number 13060, complaint filed by Larry Littlejohn against Bill Ahern, medical examiner, for allegedly violating Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.25 for failure to respond to immediate disclosure request dated August 26, 2013. Please note that Mr. Ahern is no longer the medical examiner. I believe the medical examiner representative can make a statement to that effect.
So is
Yes,
this,
there is someone here for.
oh, there's a representative from?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. The first item is jurisdiction. Is is Larry Littlejohn here? Oh, okay.
Mr. Littlejohn?
Okay. No, I just need to know if you were here. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Not yet. You don't have to come up yet. Sorry, you don't have to come up yet, but give me a second. I just wanted to know who you were, if you were here, present. You don't have to come up quite yet. Give me one moment. Thank you. In the issue of jurisdiction, I believe that it is not being contested by either party. Is that correct? Who's here for the medical examiner? Okay. Are you contesting jurisdiction?
I'm here to represent Bill Ahern.
Okay. Okay. So regarding jurisdiction, I'm assuming that is okay because that is within our jurisdiction. That's my question. If there's no contesting jurisdiction, can I get a motion to accept jurisdiction?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'd like to invite, is there any public, sorry, I just scuffed a flight, public comment on the issue of jurisdiction? No? Then I would like to say that if it's okay, that this motion is passed without objection, and we can move to the next item, to the next issue. Which is the issue of the complaint. Are you going to read, if you could read item B?
Yes. Determination on jurisdiction has been passed with no objection. On item B, hearing on the complaint filed by Larry Littlejohn against Bill Ahern, medical examiner.
Great. Mr. Littlejohn, you have 5 minutes to make your case regarding what we're talking about. Okay, can you come to that mic, please? I don't think that one's working.
This actually goes back to 2011, first time I filed a complaint. I've had nothing but unpleasant difficulties in just communicating with Mr. Ahern, who is the administrative assistant to the coroner. And so when we had this on for a meeting before, we sat here, and I thought we just discussed it informally. The meeting was long, and so I was going to work with them. There is what's called a coroner's register. I don't have a copy of it. It's in the medical examiner's office, and it is subject to the public records thing. Now, I need to look about 8 years of those. There one book for each month of the year, and they are filed in a conference room, and there is doors going. So he will allow me, and whenever he might have a deputy available sitting there with me, and it's very difficult to work that way. The logical way to do it, and the friendly way to do it, would be if he would take these records out of the conference room, across the hall to the public office, the public counter of the coroner's office. They have the coroner staff in there, and I could sit there and do it. Last time I was there, I had 2 other people helping me, and we had an appointment, and when we got there, he said nobody was available to go in the conference room with us. So I wasted time of 2 people that were kind to do it. Why didn't you just call us and tell us not to come? The way it is laid out is the conference room, somebody has to come from the coroner's office and just sit there and watch me do it. Now, if they will just take the records and in the public office and let me sit there and do it, no problem. I wish I could use the good officers, somebody here in the Sunshine Law, to work that out. The guy is just being unresponsive to things. When I first started, he denied that the records were there. We were standing right in front of the records. They were a cabinet, and he showed me the autopsy report that I wanted the coroner's surgeon. And so he said he thought it was Iron Mountain storage, and he called his predecessor and find out where they were at. We were standing right in front of where they were at. And so finally, we got it. And it's been nothing but difficulty. I wish we could use the good officers, the transport, to arrange something. It takes about 2 hours to look through all the register for 1 year, and I may have to go to about 8 or 9 years. And I wish we could work it out so I could have 2 hours or maybe 4 hours. I can't do more than 4 hours because it's very tedious. Just continuously, I go a certain time, and be there. I'm an ex-deputy sheriff, I was in the sheriff's department. I've lived here for 50 years, and I'm really responsible. And I'm not trying to. They had a bad case once, a long time ago, where somebody went and used those records to get funny IDs. And I'm not doing that. And I don't know why we just can't get this over with. And so finally, I can't deal with you. So I put in the immediate request thing, and no response from him, no response whatsoever.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Pardon?
You have 5 minutes because we'll come back to you and ask questions after we hear from the respondent. Do you have anything else you'd like to say? You still have time.
Pardon?
Do you have anything else you'd like to say at this time? Anything else you want to say that we need to know about?
Well, no, it's under the ordinance. It's available to the public, and it's just a matter of them making it available to me. And call me up, and then I go there, and I'm working, and somebody has to leave the room, and so I have to leave. And then call me again, and we'll get together. Call me 2 weeks from now, call me, and we'll try to make an appointment for me to go in there at a certain time. There's no reason to have the records viewed in the conference room. They can be viewed in the public office of the medical examiner, and I like to be able to do at least 2 hours a day for 5 or 7 days, how long it takes me to complete the task. And I don't know how I'm going to get that done. He's not cooperating with you. He's not here. And one day, he said, well, why don't you reschedule it, and I'll set up another time for you. Call me. So I said, that's why I'm calling you, right? That's the way he deals with people. I don't know what to do. If somebody from the task force would talk to him and say, hey, be cooperative, set up a schedule, do it in the public office of the coroner, and let the guy go 2 hours a day, and I'll be over with.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone here in the public that would like to offer any facts or support to Mr. Littlejohn's case? If not, then I'd like to invite the complainant up. So you can have a seat now, Mr. Littlejohn, and then we'll call you back up in a minute. So
Oh, sorry.
the respondent.
Hi. Just for the record, I'm Christopher Warwick. I'm the Acting Medical Examiner's Administrator, Assistant Chief Investigator. The name of Bill Ahern, he's the former Medical Examiner's Administrator. He has since parted ways with the department. So just for the record.
Okay. What's your name again? Tell me your last name again.
Christopher Warwick.
Warwick.
Yep.
Okay.
So he brought up several issues that I'd like to address. First things first, Mr. Ahern no longer works there, so...
When did he leave?
He actually left in November of last year. But the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner takes public records requests very seriously. We do make the records available to the public 10 to 4, Monday through Friday. He's expressing some difficulty because the records are paper records. In the office, we actually have paper. They're physically paper records that then they're volumes and volumes of books. We did not go to an electronic format until 1996, so it is difficult, really for anyone, not just someone who's not familiar with the system, to go through these records. Just for some background information, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner actually has records from January 1st of 1957 to present. Everything in December 1st, 1956 is actually housed at the San Francisco Public Library. So that's 1906, to December 31st of 1956. That's housed at the library. Everything from January 1st, 1957 to present is housed at the department. So Mr. Littlejohn is requesting review dating back from 1973, 74, 75, onward up until 1980. Those are available. He expressed that there may have been some miscommunication between the former administrator and Mr. Littlejohn, but I want to assure you that definitely we can meet that request, and I would be happy to help you. Regarding Mr. Littlejohn's area to review the records, we have a very small blueprint, and we currently have a conference room that we can make available, and he would be able to review them. And I would have no problem giving him my direct contact number to facilitate the review of those records. Regardless of if I'm in the office, there are people there because we're open for business Monday through Friday, so we would be able to accommodate his request. So it was my understanding, though, that Mr. Ahern, the former administrator, and Mr. Littlejohn had already, as the department has exhausted all resources to try to locate the record that he's searching for. We have no problem for him bringing in extra resources to review the records because, like I said, they're volumes of paper. But as the department has exhausted all resources, we cannot locate this record that he's requesting for. However, the records are available for his review. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any member of the public that is here to support the respondent with any additional facts? If not, I'd like to open it up to the members. Member Nee.
Yes, Mr. Warwick, please. Who is the current medical examiner?
Dr. Amy Hart.
And when did Ms. Hart assume the position?
It's been several years. I don't have an approximate date.
Oh, wait a minute. You said Mr. Ahern left last November.
Right, so just for clarification, Dr. Amy Hart is the chief medical examiner. This complaint is against Bill Ahern,
Okay, and who is his replacement?
myself.
Okay.
I'm currently in an acting role. But the Bill Ahern was the medical examiner's administrator, not the medical examiner, just for clarification.
Okay. Now, the complaint is that, according to what we have here, Mr. Littlejohn made an immediate disclosure request on August 27th last year, and to date has not received a response to that immediate disclosure request. Can you tell us why?
Actually, this is the information, the request for my attendance here in this meeting is my first knowledge of this request.
So when Mr. Ahern left and you took over his spot, he did not pass along that information? Did he pass along any information to you?
Unfortunately, it was a very limited time frame of the transition.
Okay, but, Mr. Ahern left and you took office last November. That's almost 4 months ago. So this is the first you're aware that this request was made? Is that correct? Is that what you're telling us?
This is the first meeting I've ever had with Mr. Littlejohn. I have had no prior correspondence with Mr. Littlejohn regarding this request or any other request.
How does how does information get passed along then? I mean there is a gap there. There is a procedural gap that needs to be addressed. Why did you not? Can you tell us why you did not get that information?
Well, I don't think it's I can't discuss. I really can't discuss one individual leaving a department and taking another position elsewhere. I'm just.
Okay, are you also the custodian of records, sir?
The chief medical examiner is the custodian of records.
And she did not inform you. Of this particular request, that this was kind of there.
It was the department's understanding that this had already been taken care of. That Mr. Ahern and Mr. Littlejohn had resolved the request.
Mr. Ahern, please. I'm sorry, Mr. Littlejohn, please approach the microphone. Mr. Littlejohn, please approach the microphone. Please approach the microphone, sir. We've just heard medical examiner's representative, Mr. Warwick, tell us.
Over here.
Okay, you have just heard Mr. Warwick, the medical examiner's representative, tell us that the disclosure request seems to have been resolved between you and Mr. Ahern. Is that correct? Or do you have a different version of events?
I'm sorry, I didn't bring my hearing aids, so I'm having difficulty.
Okay, sir. We just heard from the medical examiner's representative that that you and Mr. Ahern resolved the matter of your having requested certain public records from the medical examiner's office. He's saying you and Mr. Ahern resolved that. Is that your understanding? Is that your recollection? That you and Mr. Ahern resolved this matter between you. Is that your understanding, sir?
No,
Could you use the microphone, please?
well, it was on the agenda for the meeting, but it was never heard because the meeting ran long. We got together after the meeting, and I got in touch with him, and we made an agreement that I would go there, and he would let me look at it. But it turns out that he had had a employee of the deputy in the conference room when they're doing it. The previous time they went there, the deputy wasn't available, and so we couldn't look at it. So I said, why didn't we just do it in the public office? There's plenty of space, and there's people present there all the time. But he didn't want to do it that way. So finally, I had a agreement with him, and I was going there with two friends of mine. I got so tried to speed it up, and we did it once to 3 people. And then when I got there, he said, "Oh, well, I don't have anybody that I can put in there with you. But I'll let you do it alone, but I won't let these people be there." I said, why didn't you just call me in the morning so I wouldn't bring these people down? You know. So I said, one of the months was missing, and I said, "Where's that month?" Said, "Oh, it's at the district attorney's office." Really? So I went to the district attorney's office. They didn't have any record of it. So the next time I was there, I went through it. I said, "Where's that?" He said, "Oh, it's at the public defender's office." I went there, and they didn't have any record being there. I said, "Where is this record?" He just, off the top of his head, said it was 2 different places. And when I checked there, they didn't have it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Warwick?
Can I ask a question?
To your knowledge, what is the record he is searching for?
Well, he's looking for the register page or any the autopsy findings, the autopsy report, or the investigator's report, and that's available for him to review.
Do you know what person he's looking for?
He outlined it in the initial request he made after review of today's documentation.
And you don't have any, these, I understand that these are all paper records, but have they not ever been scanned? Are they in searchable PDF format?
Unfortunately,
I was
no.
afraid you said that. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks to me like you may have inherited this this request,
Right.
and from what I've heard, you seem to be quite accommodating and continuing to work with them. I wonder if we can just cut to the chase. And
Yeah, and just listening to all of this, it just seems that it seems like you inherited something and there was a gap, which is a mistake with the department, but it just seems that you are willing to work with Mr. Littlejohn at this time.
Absolutely. We do provide a customer service, and this is just that. That's my
Is it just
understanding.
one, is he looking for, I just want to be clear, is he looking for all those years, from your understanding, the particular page that he's not been able to find? And could you photocopy those for him and then give those to him? Or is that?
So each page is one decedent. So
okay.
if
Got
if he's looking through volumes, he's
Got it.
looking through decedent records.
Okay.
And I have 1 volume per month.
Okay,
So
got it.
we're
It's a
looking
lot.
at
I
12
understand.
volumes per year.
So he should come in, and so you're
would have
more than
to.
open to having him come in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's my understanding that he had, after communicating with Mr. Ahern, he was given a 2-hour allotment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm available to allow him to review records from 10 in the
10 to
morning to
4.
4 in the afternoon.
Okay, so let me talk to him. But for me, if you want to cut to the chase, what I think I would like to do is let's see if Mr. Littlejohn is amenable to that, and then I'd like to perhaps send this to compliance and amendments so that we can see that this is your first time here, but compliance amendments,
Can you
the subcommittee that will, let us know that you were in compliance with what Mr. Littlejohn was
Right.
requesting.
Right.
So let me ask him if that's something.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Littlejohn? Yes. Can I have you come up? Let's go that way. So you've heard what do you understand what Mr. Warwick has just said?
No.
Okay. So he has said that he is willing, that with Mr. Ahern leaving, that there was miscommunication and all the stuff that happened. We don't know what happened then. But he is willing now to meet with you, to have you come in, sit in a conference room, unlimited time from 10 to 4 while they're there all day, and work with you directly to allow you to open up and see the documentation that you want. Is that good for you? Is that something that you're
It
open
doesn't have to
to?
be in the conference room. It should be in the public office. But if it's in the conference room, there has to be some employee sitting there totally wasting his time.
I don't think he's saying that, so it could be anywhere. I don't think he's saying that has to be in a conference room, but the fact is that he wants to work with you to make sure you get the documents that you want. He says that Mr. Ahern, I don't know what happened there. There was some miscommunication, the time allotments, all of that, but he's willing to let you come in for 6 hours during the day, and anywhere. I'm putting words in his mouth, but we'll see.
In the public office?
What's the public office? Do you know what that is? I'm sorry, let me ask Mr. Warwick where Mr. Littlejohn could see the documents. Give him a second. Yeah.
Okay, so unfortunately, our office has very limited public space, and I actually have restricted areas because
Of the documents.
law enforcement documentation and the accessibility to.
So where could Mr. Littlejohn view the documentation?
So I do have a conference room, and I have a front rotunda that I would be more than willing to accommodate and put a desk.
Okay.
So he could have review
Got
of
it.
those.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it is the only record that the city and county
Has.
has on file. So that's why we do
Keep it.
protect it and like to
I
keep
got
it
it.
within the department.
Okay. So, Mr. Littlejohn, Mr. Warwick is saying that because of the limited space, it has to be in a conference room or the rotunda, also because to protect the documents, since they are the only paper documents. So would you be willing to go to the conference room that he would make available to you, or the rotunda and give you a desk?
Could we do consecutive days until I get finished? Maybe 5 or 6 days in a row?
So what I'd like to do is get out of this conversation now and let you guys work together, because he's more than happy to have you come anytime, from our understanding. And what we'll do is we'll see it with public opinion also, but I'd like to refer this back to compliance and amendments to make sure that you've gotten what you want. So I'd like you guys to have that conversation, if that works, because then we don't know what the schedule is or any of that, and you guys need to decide what works for you, for your schedule, and what works for Mr. Warwick to get all the documents to you as soon as possible. I don't think he has a problem with you coming in every day if that's what you want to do. So he's more than willing to work with you. So,
Well, yeah, I'd like to do at least consecutive days, because one time I got one day, and I had to wait 2 more weeks before.
yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem this time. So I'd love for you to try and work this out with Mr. Warwick and the department, and then I'm going to schedule this for a subcommittee called Compliance and Amendments to make sure that they have complied with what you are requesting. So if that works, and if there's any problem, then we can talk about issues then. But right now, I'd love to see you guys try to work this out, work together to get the documentation that you are asking for, that you didn't, for some reason, get the time or get the place or any of the other stuff that you didn't get before. But Mr. Warwick is here saying he's giving you his phone number, he's willing to work with you, he's willing to give you location. So
we could do it in consecutive days?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that'd be good.
Okay, so why don't you have a seat? Let us work through what we need to work through, and then we'll make a ruling and get public opinion, and then, we'll let you guys kind of go on your way. Okay, so you can have a seat right now. Okay, it's not to offer now. So at this time, we kind of worked that out, but I would like to invite Mr. Warwick, thank you. Warwick up, if you have any final comments before we make a ruling and open it up to public opinion. Is there any last comment you want to make?
Yeah, I
You have 3
would just like
minutes.
to add that, yes, I think this is just providing a public service, and this can be, the department can accommodate his request, and I'll be certain that he is taken care of. I'll provide him my own personal county cell phone, and we'll make it work.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Littlejohn, if you have anything lastly that you would like to say, or you want us? think we... No? Okay. Okay. I'd like to see if there is a motion. Member Nee?
Yes. Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we find Amy Hart's in violation of Section 67.21 B or C, 67.21 B and 67.29-7.
Can you, what's 69.29-7? What is that?
Correspondence and records shall be maintained.
Okay.
That would be, I'm sorry, 67.29-7A.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, now we can have a discussion.
Well, I guess,
Yeah.
so why the 69
Point 29-7?
yeah, why that one?
Okay.
Can you elaborate, just so I can kind of get it?
Well, I think Mr. Warwick is put in kind of an unfortunate situation here, and I kind of, as I see it, he has to be held blameless. But he has told us that Ms. Hart is the chief medical examiner. She's also the custodian of records. And we heard Mr. Warwick say that somehow when Mr. Littlejohn asked to see certain records, I think, if I heard correctly, Mr. Warwick told us that for some reason those particular records just couldn't be found anywhere. 67.297A says the mayor and all department heads shall maintain and preserve in a professional and businesslike manner all documents and correspondence. So there was missing documents and correspondence there. It seems to me, when those are a certain thing that a requester is looking for, and they mysteriously turn up missing, that doesn't sit right with me.
Mr. Ward, I can't see, I'm sorry. Is that the case that can you come up? I just want to clarify.
So just for clarification,
Yeah.
those records were made available to Mr. Littlejohn.
Yeah.
Those records were made available in its entirety to Mr. Littlejohn. Now, if Mr. Littlejohn does not have a firm understanding when the individual he's searching record for died, it's going to be hard for anyone to find that record. If you don't know the year, you don't know the date of death, you don't know the individual's name. We're talking about hundreds, thousands, because he's requesting several years, 74 through 1980. So on average, if the department brings in 1,300 deaths per year, just the sheer quantity, yeah.
It was made available to
Right.
him. He did not see it.
Absolutely.
So now, just to clear, do you have a better sense? Can you help him find what he's looking for, or is it still that he has to go through this voluminous?
So the information he's provided us, based on this decedent name that he is uncertain. He's not certain if that really is the decedent's first and last name. It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Okay.
Wasn't it a John Doe?
No, he's actually asking for a female, according to the record, and he has been given and provided each volume. Every year, he's requested all 12 months. It's not that the records were misplaced. It's just based on the information he's provided the department, we have exhausted all resources. We cannot find this record he's requesting.
So now what you're saying is that you're making it available if he wants to come from 10 to 4.
Absolutely.
And he can go through it and look for, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
We've never lost the record. That's not
there.
the issue at hand. It's just the quantity.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, if the second will agree, I will remove Section 67.297A from my motion.
Agreed.
Great. So right now, we just have violation of 67.21, correct?
67.21B.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and you've seconded that?
Yes, I agree with the second amendment.
Okay, great. Okay, great, then. I would like to open it up for public comment on this case, if there's any public comment on this particular case.
Good evening, Thomas Piccarello. Well, was that motion approved by the task force, and that's what we're supposed to be commenting on?
What we're doing is he made a motion, he seconded it. I'm opening up for public comment to see what the public has and their opinions regarding the motion, and then we're going to vote on it based upon everything.
Okay, so and if the motion doesn't get adopted and something else gets proposed, then public would then be offered the ability to
Yes.
comment on that. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. Just trying to understand your rules. First of all, Mr. Littlejohn has a hearing impairment. So my suggestion is you provide him a hearing device so that you can hear his story rather than rely on the medical examiner's version. Obviously, there's a conflict, and Mr. Littlejohn cannot hear what Mr. Warwick is telling you, and you're accepting it as the truth. So you may want to provide him a hearing device before you decide what, if any, penalties that you will impose on the medical examiner. But it's my understanding from reading your packet that the respondent did not respond at all until tonight. If what he is saying is correct, true, then he should have put it in writing in a response that's required by your rules, so that Mr. Littlejohn wouldn't have any problems understanding it if it's in writing rather than his inability to hear what Mr. Warwick is presenting to you tonight. I don't think Mr. Warwick has any credibility at all. He became the successor to Mr. Ahern in November. From November until tonight, he has done nothing. Tonight, he promised that he was going to work with Mr. Littlejohn. The Sunshine Ordinance requires much more than that. It requires that if there's an IDR, one has to produce the documents in a day or give a good reason why they can't provide the documents in a day. Neither Mr. Ahern or his successor, Mr. Warwick, did that. So you may want to think of other violations of your Sunshine Ordinance that was committed by the medical examiner's office. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment?
Yes, Peter Warfield. The discussion was a little hard to follow, and I'm not familiar with this case. So let me start out by saying that I appreciate your effort to, from this time forward, obtain something for the complainant, Mr. Littlejohn. However, as the previous speaker has mentioned, it's my understanding that this began as an immediate disclosure request. And from the records that I can see in the file, this has been going on since 2011 or earlier. That's more than 3 years. There's a phrase, justice delayed is justice denied. And whether you're getting an explanation about how this person left and this person didn't pick it up and this person didn't know what was going on before and so on and so forth, I think you need to hold the department accountable. Now, the those who may have followed may have had reason not to have caused the problem, but you need to hold somebody accountable when the law is not satisfied and followed as it should be. There may be mitigating circumstances such as I just got here. I do think you need to look into the dates of all of this material here, which, as I said, looks like it's been going on for more than 3 years, and an immediate disclosure request is supposed to be replied to in writing by the end of the next business day, not 3+ years later. And if that didn't happen, and if Mr. Littlejohn didn't get what he was looking for, then I think it's important to find a violation. With respect to the supposed voluminousness of these records, you heard it would be actually quite easy. 1 page per person. And so if Mr. Littlejohn wants to page through like this, you do the math. I believe he has said somewhere that it would take him 20 minutes, he thought. But even if it didn't, and even if he wants to look through a haystack for a needle, that's his right and his business. So I think it's perfectly fine what he wants to do. If he wants to sit and look for whatever time he needs, it should be fine. But you need to hold accountable the department. And if they're not passing information properly, I think that is a violation, as was previously mentioned by the member Nee. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment?
I lost my regular hearing aid, and now I can't find my temporary hearing aid. Basically, what I'm looking for is the coroner's register is by month. It is
Sir?
maybe about.
It doesn't. I get it. You can ask. You can get whatever. You can ask for whatever you want. You can get whatever you want if it's available. Then they have to give it to you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter. We don't. You don't even have to tell me anymore.
I was coming. I'm not looking for a needle in a haystack.
That's fine. So you can look. So if you want to look through all the books, that is totally your prerogative, and that's your right.
Okay.
So that's what we just want to make sure that you get that ability to do that.
Okay.
So
I hope it happens. Thank you.
Yes, I do too. Okay. Is there any more public comment?
I would think that it would be easier for both parties to communicate in writing, because it appears that there were gaps of time and a lot of misunderstanding. So maybe not by email, maybe not by phone, especially when there's huge volumes that would probably need to come from the public library to, sounded like 850 Bryant Street. That's
No, I think that the documents that he wants are at the coroner's office, so they have them available.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you. Is there any more public comment? If not, we have a motion on the floor. I'd like to take a roll call vote on that, unless there's anything you want to change or anything.
The motion is to move to find Amy Hart, medical examiner, in violation of Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.21B, and refer the item to the Compliance Committee. Member Nee? Aye. Nee, aye. Member Washburn? Washburn absent. My apologies. Member Sims?
Aye.
Sims, aye. Member David?
Aye.
David, aye. Member Highland?
Aye.
Highland, aye. Vice Chair Fisher?
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Chair Grant?
Aye.
Grant, aye. The motion passes.
Great. So at this time, I would like to assign I would like you guys to work together, and then I want to assign this matter to the Compliance Amendments Committee for, what's this? May?
Follow-up?
Yeah, for a follow-up in 1 month. Is that sufficient time? Okay, so for May 7th, don't know, but our May.
This is April. I mean, this is March, so.
Oh, I'm sorry,
you're talking
April,
about
thank you.
April.
So it would be the April 7th, whatever the compliance amendments date is, we will have that. It's on the thing.
Compliance, I believe compliance
April
amendments will be
17th?
April 19th.
Okay, so April 19th. And if that's, don't fault us.
Maybe I'm wrong on it.
Yeah.
It would be the
Do you have a
the
calendar?
third
Third Tuesday.
third Tuesday in April.
In
whatever that
April
is.
when we will come back to you guys and see if you've gotten what you want.
I will
Okay?
inform you in mail of the exact date with the order of termination.
April 15th, I believe.
So, April 15th.
Same day your tax returns
Tax
due.
day. So, but Mr. Littlejohn, understand that you guys should be working together, you and Mr. Come up. I want you guys and Mr. Warwick to talk right now, you and Mr. Warwick, and get dates down that you want to come to the office and work together to get what you want. So then when you come to the meeting in April, we just want to see that you got what you wanted. Okay? Thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much for coming. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. At this time, it's 5 o'clock, so I would like to, Victor, if you could announce the next item on the agenda.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force on matters that are within the Sunshine Ordinance jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
So I'd like to open up the floor for members of the public that have public comment on items that aren't on today's agenda. Do you have, is there any public comment? You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to kind of update you, or that the Arts Commission is still not complying. It's not that I'm making malicious IDRs. It's, simple 1-sentence, 2-sentence document requests, particularly around December, concerning spaces downtown, barricades, what new spaces, the specific things that would be easily answered. They have not complied at all. Their minutes are late. They've even responded to Mr. Young saying that we understand, we're still at fault, we're going to fix them within the next 2 weeks. That's not happening at all. And basically, I feel very frustrated because I still do go to the full Arts Commission, and when the time comes to speak on these matters, I still do, and it's been over a year. There's been no compliance at all, particularly on the part of Howard Lazar, who's not answering the IDRs, and I have to go this full circle over and over again. And I hope that you see in my lifetime a pattern here and deal with them in an appropriate manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. There are a number of things one might say, but to keep it fairly simple, I think you do need to take stock at some point, and when you find that you have serial violators or serial violations, to try and deal with what might be called root causes. A medical doctor, if he sees a pimple here and a pimple there and a pimple there and a pimple there and a pimple there and a pimple there, might say, that's a rash. And he might further do a diagnosis and find that there's a systemic problem, like some secondary syphilis. He wouldn't just dump calamine lotion on the first pimple and then dump calamine lotion on the second pimple and dump calamine lotion on the third pimple and so on. And I do think that there has been a long-standing problem, including times prior to your being seated, with repeat violations, with repeat violators, and of course with enforcement. And I think you should take up perhaps inviting anybody who wants to, including the public, to talk to you about these things and, if possible, suggest and yourselves discuss ideas for how to handle that. I think that is, overall, a serious problem. On another topic with respect to how you structure your agenda packet, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force is here to presumably provide an opportunity for justice, for open government, and to help folks who come before you when they have a problem and they don't want to and don't have money for a lawyer. I think it's very, very important to hear the public, whether they're experienced or not, to try and listen and understand what the situation is. And so I find it very troubling that you seem to have a practice of putting the city attorney's analysis first. So the very first thing in a packet you get is the city attorney's interpretation of what's going on. I think you should have a complaint first. Often these are simple, straightforward. And then the rest of the sequence, I think, should be the complaint, the response, and so on, in some sensible order, particularly chronological order. And that isn't the case at present either. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment?
Thomas Piccarello. First, let me thank the six of you for coming tonight and establishing a quorum for the three complainants. Again, I want to criticize you for just only having three complaints tonight. It's a very light agenda. If you look at the task force administrators report, you'll see there's 62 cases that are pending. If you do 3 cases a month, then it'll take you 2 years to catch up. Most of you won't be on the task force by the time you catch up. So I urge you to have a special meeting this month and perhaps hear another 10 so that there will only be 50 outstanding. There's a reason that the voters passed the ordinance and provided a 45-day rule. They wanted to see individuals who have a right to documents receive them in 45 days, and they want these people that want to speak at meetings to have the ability to speak at meetings within 45 days. So I urge you to have a special meeting this month, have more cases, so that your backlog does not reach 70 next month. Thank you.
I'm going to, Mr. Piccarello, I'm just going to address those two things just so you can understand how it works, because we are, first of all, having a secondary meeting this month to do the additional, try to get more cases in. What happens when we do these agendas is we usually have 5 or 6 cases on there, and during that time, and I will let Victor actually explain the process because that's something that we want to talk about later in our bylaws and things like that. The time period when people then withdraw or say they're not going to be there, it's too late for our lawyer to then do new statements and give a timely. You know what? Let me let Victor explain it to you. So he does it every day. So, Victor?
We approximately informed the complainants of a potential scheduling about 3 weeks before the meeting. I usually don't get a response from anyone requesting continuances or withdrawal until about 1 or 2 weeks before the hearing. At that time, it's not enough time to inform the city attorney for them to complete the review of the file, and it is also not enough time for me to inform a new person to see if they're available for another hearing or not. So it's all parties involved. It's a matter of timing.
Is there any more public comment? If not, then since it's 5 o'clock, I'd like to just go to the next item on the agenda.
Item number 4, file number 13074, complaint filed by Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, against the Library Commission for allegedly violating Sunshine Section Ordinance Section 67.5, 67.7, and 67.7-1 for failure to schedule a public meeting prior to distributing a letter from the Library Commission on October 4, 2013 regarding support for San Francisco City Librarian Luis Herrera in regards to the recent stipulation decision and order pertaining to the filing of statement of economic interest to the Fair Political Practice Commission.
Before we go into that, will you make note that Member Washburn did arrive?
Yes, I have noted
Okay.
Member Washburn has arrived.
Great, thank you. I do believe jurisdiction is accepted by both parties. Mr. Warfield, and who's here from? Thank you. So jurisdiction is accepted by both parties. Great. Can I have a motion then to accept jurisdiction?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I'd like to open this up for any public comment about jurisdiction. Are you doing public comment about jurisdiction?
I just wanted to say that I think the agenda is incorrect. It omits a specific section that we placed in the complaint specifically, and which your city attorney's letter also cites. And I'm not sure that 67.7-1, which is in here but in your agenda but not in our complaint, I'm not sure that that applies. I wouldn't say take it out
Okay.
immediately, but I think there needs to be clarity about what the violations are. In our complaint, we said there was at least violations of 67.5, .7a, .7d as in dog, and 6715.
Got it. Okay. Was there a motion and second for jurisdiction? Okay, great. Okay. All right. Are you commenting on the jurisdiction?
Yeah. Ace Washington. I'm just here waiting for the police commission, and thought I'd stop in here, see some new faces here. I see one old face, but I see a whole new faces here. I'm quite pleased to see there's a new complexity here, because I will be coming back to this commission on a whole lot of issues.
Can I stop you for a
Is
second?
it public comment yet?
No, you missed public comment, general public comment. What I'm doing is about this particular case.
Okay.
So, but
Good.
thank
Good
you.
process. Okay, good. I'll be back.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Can I, if there's no comment, I'd like to declare this motion passed without objection for jurisdiction. Great. Okay. So let's go to the substance, and I'd like to invite Mr. Warfield up. And you have 5 minutes to give us the particulars of this case.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. There are a lot of, if you like, details, and there are a lot of interesting aspects to this. But the first thing I'd like to say is that, unfortunately, if you look for a chronological understanding, the agenda packet is somewhat confusing. It was actually confusing to me to go through it, and I'm pretty familiar with the case. The sequence of the documents, starting with the cover page, which is 10th in the sequence by time, really doesn't count, it's just a cover page, is, in terms of the time sequence, just so you know why you might be a little bit confused, it's the 9th document, the 1st document, which was our complaint, then the 7th, the 8th, the 5th, the 6th, the 3rd, the 4th, and last came the 2nd. The 2nd being the administrator's letter to the library, and the 3rd being the library's response to our complaint. Basically, the library commission held an unlawful seriatim, also known as serial meeting, on Friday, the day after, October the 4th, the day after its regular commission meeting of October the 3rd. They discussed by email a letter that Michelle Jeffers, whose title I don't recall, it's lengthy, but we knew her as the public relations head, and she's here today. She had penned a letter for them to review. They received it the day after the commission meeting and commented through email and basically approved, quote unquote, this letter, which was then sent to the San Francisco Bay Guardian. The Library Commission knew from public comment made by myself and some others that the city librarian had gotten into trouble over the truthfulness or the untruthfulness of his filings with the state FPPC, the Fair Political Practices Commission. And 2 weeks prior to the official meeting, they had in Sacramento on September 19th found the city librarian in violation of the law for 3 consecutive years in which he X'd the box and affirmatively said he had received no gifts of any kind from anybody, when in fact he had received thousands of dollars from the Friends of SFPL. He was fined. He acknowledged the violation in writing, that he had violated the law. These were forms that he said he understood and was signing under penalty of perjury. The Library Commission had never taken these matters up at any prior meeting, nor at the October 3rd meeting. So we have my complaint, which is on, I don't know if you've read it, basically that they sent an illegal letter and that this violated 67.5, .7, A and D, and 6715, requiring meetings to be open to the public, requiring 72 hours notice of a meeting and permitting no action or discussion without proper notice, and 15A, requiring opportunity for public comment on the proposed actions. The library's response basically was an acknowledgement that they had done wrong in their response to our complaint. I'll read an excerpt from the letter, which is on your page 45 to 6 on your agenda. After the Library Commission meeting on Thursday, October 3rd, Michelle Jeffers, Acting Chief of Communications, Programs, and Partnerships, was asked by a member of the Library Commission to draft and send a letter from the Library Commission seeking to publicly affirm its support for San Francisco City Librarian Luis Herrera in regards to the recent FPPC matter. Once the library realized that it had violated sections of the Sunshine Ordinance, Jeffers immediately sent a letter to the reporter rescinding the letter, and so on and so forth. Well, of course, they knew they had violated because we told them we had filed a complaint. And, of course, Ray Hartz had told them, too. In my further letter, I've asked you not to be distracted by a lot of details. They sent a letter that they arrived at illegally, and they should be found in violation of those sections. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone here to offer any additional facts in support of evidence to Mr. Warfield? If not, I'd like to invite the respondent up, and you two have 5 minutes to tell us about your case.
Good evening, Sue Blackman, Library Commission Secretary. I'm here with Michelle Jeffers, our Chief of Communications, Programs, and Partnerships. Basically, Mr. Warfield referred to the letter that we sent in reply to this hearing, and we're basically here to answer any questions. I mean, we agree that we made a mistake, and we tried to correct it as soon as possible. And again, we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to offer any facts or evidence in support of the respondent? If not, then I'd like to open it up to the members for any questions they might have.
Mr. Warfield, please. Okay, Mr. Warfield, you've heard the library, you've heard Ms. Blackman admit, you've heard that Ms. Jeffers admitted there was a mistake, and, you know, they want to They've taken steps to prevent a recurrence of this type of mistake. So what is it you want the task force to do now? They're already, they already acknowledging they made a mistake. They're trying to take steps to prevent a recurrence. What would you like the task force to do?
First of all, I don't believe that the full story is out. Second, and I hope the task force may ask sufficient questions to find out more information about what went on. I certainly don't believe from their simple statements that they have done things which they have never specified in their writings nor at their public meetings. These things which they say they're doing, as I say, are not anything that they have acknowledged publicly. In addition, they have never acknowledged publicly, except in their answer to our complaint, what these things are that they're going to do, and they haven't put on the agenda a discussion of any of the FPPC issues, nor the Sunshine Task Force's role in getting their confession, if you like. So what I would like is for it to be on the record formally that they violated the law in the way that I have said. And it's fine if you say that they acknowledge it, but their acknowledgement was because, in my opinion, we filed a complaint. I would like a formal finding of violation because they violated the law. I don't think that if somebody says, oh, I murdered somebody, I'm sorry, that suffices with respect to the law. And in this case, the law was broken. I want a formal finding.
Thank you.
Member Washburn? I'm recalling that last meeting of the full task force, we found a party in violation, and the party admitted the violation. And we made the finding to have it on the record. We didn't then feel compelled to do anything further. So, for our history going forward, it might be useful to find a violation. Is that everyone else's recollection? Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember that because I was filling in for you. There was an acknowledgement, and we just didn't feel it was necessary to refer it to another committee and drag everybody else in as long as everybody agreed.
Okay. Are there any additional questions? No? If not, then I would like to invite the representative to come up if you have any final comments. You have 3 minutes to give us
Okay, I don't know if Michelle wants to say anything, but no, we don't. And we have had our city attorney come in and have briefings with the library staff, and they've talked to the commission as well, various commissioners. So we have taken action to ensure that this does not happen again. And it was, I will say, it was a very quick turnaround on when this went out, and I should have known better.
I do have a question. So just from reading the complaint, so just so I can be clear what happened, so there was a meeting, a full meeting of the commission, and the public was there and offered this. After that meeting, so you got, the group of people decided that we need to write a letter of support of Luis Guerrero. I'm just out of curiosity wondering how, like it just came that all of a sudden, was that directly after that meeting, or what were the steps to
During the meeting, there was public comment regarding this issue and speaking about the FPPC's ruling. There was no discussion by the commission. It wasn't on the agenda, so Michelle can address.
Okay.
And then following the meeting, as the commissioners were leaving, and unfortunately I stayed till the end of the meeting, which I sincerely regret doing that, because at that time one of the commissioners directed me to write a statement, write actually several versions of a statement. I only wrote one, and circulate it to them for approval, and that's when the violation occurred.
Got it, okay. And then it was sent out?
Right.
Got it, okay. The next day?
The next day.
Okay. I'd like to ask Mr. Warfield to come up, please. Give us your concluding remarks.
Yes, I would like for a very specific order of determination. They did something or another wrong, and at some time or another, I don't think that's sufficient when there's other kinds of wrongdoing. Specific date, time, method, and so on are described. So I have a draft for you, what I suggest. Sunshine Ordinance Task, and by the way, recall that they were trying to shape what a newspaper who was working actively on an article about friends of groups, they were trying actively to influence what that newspaper would report. And they did so by falsely stating to that newspaper that the Library Commission had acted and had prepared a letter as though that was some kind of a legal thing. I might also add, for Member Nee's benefit, the Library Commission, though it's had many months now since that time to do something public and legal, like send a support letter legally, like apologize for the mistake that it had made when it illegally sent it, there has been nothing on any agenda to date regarding the FPPC matter. They want to bury it. The draft that I'd like to propose, and I can put it on the screen if you like, and the specifics I think are important. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force finds that the San Francisco Public Library Commissioner or the individual commissioners, aided by the library's head of public relations or whatever her title is, it's in my complaint, Michelle Jeffers, violated Sunshine Ordinance sections that I cited, 67.5, 67.7a, 67.7d, and 67.15, when on October 4th, 2013, they received by email, serially discussed by email, and acted via email to approve a letter sent to the San Francisco Bay Guardian newspaper expressing support for City Librarian Luis Herrera regarding his signed statement acknowledging violation of law to the Fair Political Practices Commission, FPPC, and their imposition of a fine and a requirement that he refile 3 years of 701 forms showing the truth about gifts received from the Friends of San Francisco Public Library. This is what they tried to hide and now not talk about publicly, and I think the specifics are important. I'll show it here on the screen if you'd like to see it. That's what I think you should find them, and with those specifics.
Thank you very much. You can just give the letter if you want to Victor. And then, thank you.
You can,
At this time, I would like to know if there is a motion to find a violation in this case, particular case. Member Westphal?
As I said before, I think that we should find a violation. I'm just not quite sure which sections to cite. Anybody who went to the training last week, we had a discussion of seriatim meetings and how tricky they are for everybody. But maybe Member Nee or someone can help me. I think probably that 67.5 is relevant because seriatim meetings are not open to the public by their very nature, so that one was violated. And I guess if this meeting was taking place, it should have been agendized and noticed, but I'm not sure if that's directly relevant. I mean, the overarching issue here is that the policy body acted without giving the public notice or a chance to participate. And I don't know if 67.5 covers all of that, or if we need to include the rest of the sections. So that's my tentative idea. So if anybody wants to help me out here.
I agree with you, and I would, invite conversation from the whole body, but I do think that it is, when I read it, 67.5, so that policy body meetings be open to the public, as well as 67.7 in that the notice requirements for public meetings, so none of that was done, but that's a weird turn.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. 67.15A, I'm not sure about, but I do definitely agree with 67.5, and I don't know if there's any additional sections that you think would strengthen, make it, based upon what we just heard. Member Nee.
I think 67.15 does have relevance because...
15A? What Mr. Warfield's, what's been stated, governs the protocol for public comment?
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, they did this, it was a seriata meeting when they should have done it in public, and it should have included public comment. So by having the meeting in seriatim fashion, they violated 67.15A. Maybe Mr. Culloch could help us on there, but I'm trying to find if there was specific language in the Sunshine Ordinance and or the Brown Act about seriatim meetings. Because if there is, I mean, that should be included in our finding. Also, 67.9 might be relevant because, again, this matter involved no creation of or posting of agenda, so I think there's relevance there.
If I could weigh in for a second, I think
Yes.
the most relevant section provision that everyone should be looking at is 67.15A, the portion that says no action shall be taken on any item not appearing on the agenda unless the action is otherwise authorized by 67.7E. It doesn't specifically address seriatim meetings, but it does seem applicable to the case at hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, Member Washburn?
So then I move to find a violation of 67.5 to begin with, and then DCA, through the chair, DCA COLA 67.7E. Is it
15A.
Or 15A.
Which
Didn't you all
isn't that
say?
what- 15A, because that refers to...
It references that other section that you just mentioned, but it's not authorized pursuant to that section, so 67.15A, I think, would be applicable.
Okay, so then I move to find violation of 67.5 and 67.15A. And this, find the Library Commission in violation.
Second.
Okay, I'd like to open it up to any public comment on this motion.
I think the meeting that you were referring to was my complaint last time at the full task force, where there was a violation found, but it wasn't referred out anywhere simply because they said, we're sorry, we're not going to do it again. And that's why I keep coming in front of you over and over again, because even though they say we're sorry, they make the same mistake the next day over and over again. And I don't know the particulars of this case. I don't know exactly what happened, but I can say that unless you refer it out, it's too easy to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to do it again, because the likelihood of maybe not that exact mistake, but a similar mistake is pretty high.
Thank you. Is there anyone that wants to offer any comment on this particular motion?
I take it from my friend, I'm Robert Livingston, that you didn't mention 67.7, which is one of the citations that's on your page 29, and maybe you would like to address that.
The motion that was made did not include that, so that's what just to answer your question, sir, the motion that was made did not include that, so the members that made the motion felt that the applicable sections were 67.5 and 67.15A, which did make mention of 67.7 in that motion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any more public comment on this?
Yeah, I strongly support the motion of a finding a sunshine violation as an ad seriatim meeting. If you look at your good government guide, page 112, it makes reference to Government Code 54952.2B and Administrative Code 67.3B2. Those are both statutes, ordinances that preclude ad seriatim meetings. I was a little troubled by the conversation about, well, if they apologize, that should be adequate. No, that's not the way the Sunshine Ordinance works. I mean, if there's a violation, you're mandated to find a violation. And then give an order of determination, and then let the Ethics Commission enforce it. I sense a little bit of timidity here tonight in terms of doing things. Perhaps, I hope it's not because you're going in front of the Board of Supervisors in 2 months to get reappointed. Now's the time not act. Now is the time to act when you see a sunshine violation. Clearly there was a sunshine violation by the Library Commission. An apology is not a defense. There was an ad seriatim meeting, and you need to clearly make that finding. You want to send a message to the Library Commission as well as all other city departments that what you're seeing in front of you is not acceptable. When you allow sunshine violations to occur and do nothing, you encourage more city departments to continue to violate the Sunshine Ordinance. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment? When public comment is closed, I'd like to take a roll call on the motion that's on the table. Can you reread it so everyone knows?
Yes, the motion is to find the Library Commission in violation of Sunshine Ordinance Sections 67.5 and 67.15A. On that motion, Member Nee.
Aye.
Nee, aye. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Member Sims.
Aye.
Sims, aye. Member David.
Aye.
David, aye. Member Highland.
Aye.
Highland, aye. Vice Chair Fisher.
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Chair Grant.
Aye.
Grant, aye. The motion passes.
So we have found in violation, and I don't think this needs to be referred to either subcommittee at this time. I think a letter or order of determination would be that the violation has occurred. Thank you for attending, and we're going to go straight, I can go to the next item unless you guys feel like you need a break. If not, I'd like to go to the next item. You guys good? Okay. So, Victor, can you read the next item on the agenda, please?
Yes. Item number 5, file number 13082, complaint filed by Gonzalo Javier Ferreira against City Attorney Darius Herrera and Deputy City Attorney Paula Jensen, City Attorney's Office for allegedly violating Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.21D and 67.34 for failure to respond to a request for determination of the status of certain records being public documents or not in a timely manner made on October 13, 2013 and October 20th, 2013.
So I believe that Who's here representing the city attorney's office? Okay, cool. And is Gonzalo? Okay, I can't see. I don't believe either of you are contesting jurisdiction. Okay, great. Then at this time, can I call for a motion to accept jurisdiction?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I'd like to open it up for any public comment on the issue of jurisdiction. If not,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you're doing on this case?
We're just saying that it's jurisdiction, that we can hear the case.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So if there's no public comment, I'm closing public comment, and I would, unless there's any problems, I'd like to declare the motion passed without objection. The members? I'd like to invite the complainant up, and you have 5 minutes to tell us about your case. Hi.
Thank you for hearing me. I'm Gonzalo Ferrer. I'm bringing this complaint.
Microphone, please.
I'm Gonzalo Ferrer. I'm bringing the complaint against the supervisor of records. In this case, it's Dennis Herrera. And basically, this is a straightforward complaint. The supervisor of records failed, actually, to fulfill his duty, her duty, according to the city ordinance. I put 2 requests for her to make a determination whether certain records were public or not. She took 58 days to respond. So far beyond the 45 days that usually is the term limit for the sanction ordinance. The respondent actually allegation is that they are not subject to the meaning of the word shall in the sanction ordinance. And it's not mandatory in their case. There are 316 instances where the sanction ordinance puts the word shall when they want to make something mandatory. And when they want to give discretion to the public officials, they have used the word may 68 times. Well, the supervisor of records failed to those standards and also failed to the same standards that they fixed for themselves. In their reply, they allege that in cases where it's needed more time for reply, they notified the complainant or the claimant and they give them a good faith estimate as to when there is going to be a determination. I never received a good faith estimate for 39 days, so much more than the 10 days. The information I needed was needed to make an appeal before the JSA. She knew exactly, because when she received my complaint on the 15th, she called the JSA, and apparently by 17 they already have talked about it. On the 18th, I get a second denial from the JSA for another request I have made. So you see, the timing is now favorable and really compromising very much for the supervisor of records. On top of that, the city attorney's office has a very delicate situation that they should have disclosed. In fairness, they should have said that there are certain conflicts because it's performing 4 roles in this matter. One is a defendant. The other one is making determinations, legal determinations as to the public or not of public records. On second is also your advisor, and is also legal advisor to the custodian of records. So it's an innumerable amount of conflicts that at least in fairness should have been disclosed. At least make you aware of that. The reply or the recommendation is pretty self-serving. Actually, it almost mimics the reply, the recommendation to the commission too. It mimics the reply of the respondent. So, and I could, to exempt the supervisor of records of the mandate of the 10 days, that section 67.21D is very clear. It says, the supervisor of records shall inform the petitioner as soon as possible and within 10 days of his determination whether the record requested or any part of the record requested is public. And it's not all. So, and the defendant contends, actually, that it should be interpreted as a goal, and that they have full discretion. If you allow full discretion in that shall word, you should allow full discretion in the other 316 words of the Sunshine Commission. So, and actually it's going to destroy the whole meaning of the Commission, because any question of records could allege the same privilege. It's not a goal. I don't need to respond in 24 hours an IDR. I don't need 14 days. I can take 3 months. So I request that this is found in breach of 67.121D.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to offer any additional facts or evidence in support of the complainant? If not, I'd like to invite the respondent up. And you have 5 minutes to.
Good evening, Gabriel Zitron on behalf of the City Attorney's Office. Mr. Ferrer's points are well taken, particularly with regards to the word shall, which does appear in the ordinance exactly as he cited. But this is a case perhaps of using the letter of the law to sort of overcome the spirit of the law, in the sense that an interpretation of the language of the statute as rigid as the one that he proposes would lead to perhaps not frequent, but certainly greater than 0 instances where the intent of the voters would not be realized, because the end product of the supervisor of records would be based not merely upon what it's supposed to be based upon, a legal determination as to whether certain records are public or not, but rather upon other considerations, in this case, a time consideration. Now, I have here, as I'm sure Mr. Ferrer does as well, I have the determination that came from Deputy City Attorney Jessen at the time, and it's a very complex document because it presented a number of complex issues as to whether the records that he originally requested from the GSA were public or not. And there's just, while no one is sure, while this does create something of a gray area, a morass that will have to be resolved, you know, no one is sure whether, or we cannot figure out who would have been better served if this document was simply to have been presented to him on day 10, regardless of the state that it was in. And it is for this reason, and, you know, I won't regurgitate all of our arguments for you on why the shall determination is not the hard literal determination, because you've already got those in your file. But I did want to highlight a couple of the reasons of the anticipated result, and not really a reasonable result, a result that it's reasonable to conclude that the voters wanted when they presented that as a part of the ordinance. I also think there's something of a larger point, if I can return to something I mentioned briefly, to say that a big part of why we have the supervisor of records here, you know, we need the public to have confidence that when the supervisor makes a determination with regards to the appeal by or the decision by a department not to present certain records, that determination is based not on any kind of agenda, not on any kind of preconceived notion of what result should happen, but based purely on the legal analysis and our understanding of the law as to whether that record should be released or not. And unfortunately, one of the things that's going to happen is that we're going to need to make that determination. You know, this is we're going to need the time that is necessary to make a determination that is based on the law and not on some other consideration. And what might be a result, favorable or unfavorable with regards to the determination, what might be a result that would satisfy Mr. Ferrer because the determination was released within a certain period of time, might give people pause in the future, I think, with regards to determinations made by the supervisor of records. Give people pause, and they would look at it and they would say, okay, well, this was given on the 10th day, and I don't know whether this actually reflects the city attorney's legal opinion or whether this is just kind of what they had. Because this is what they were forced to, you know, to give up on that day. I don't know whether the issues have been thought out, and you know, and whether this really reflects a determination that favorable or unfavorable correctly states the law with respect to these records. So I do want to, excuse me, while I don't want to regurgitate them because they are in your file, I also do want to call your attention to, you know, the legal arguments that we have made, the precedents that we've cited for why, and again, Mr. Ferris pointed out this shall versus the other instances of shall, but for why the voters and the intent of the voters is not served by the literal interpretation that he suggests. I would also like to highlight something that he did cite, which is that the same section that says shall also contemplates, as you see, a record, which suggests that the voters were envisioning an individual record, a determination to be made about an individual record. And in this case, the case was just far more complex than that, as is reflected by the complexity of the document that came out of it. Because this was an entire scheme of records and not just that it was a scheme of records, but that the legal determination as to whether those records were to be produced or not to be produced was just a much more difficult question of law. And that's all that we were doing here and all that we are supposed to do under, you know, our authority as the supervisor of records is to perform a legal analysis. And these things cannot be made more or less complex because we wish they could. They are exactly as complex as they are, and in order to arrive at the correct determination, you know, we understand that that is our prerogative, is to be correct on the law. And we made every effort to do so in this case.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anyone that wants to offer any support or, I'm sorry, any facts and evidence in support of the respondent? If not, I'd like to open it up to the members for questions. Hold on one second.
But I want to speak in support.
Once you get to public comment, I will allow you to speak, but right now we're still at the point, though.
I want to speak in support.
But it's not that time yet. But it's not that time yet. Do you have any questions, anyone? Any members? Member Nee?
Yes, Mr. Ferrer, please.
Yes.
Did you actually receive a determination from the supervisor of records, and if so, how long did it actually take from the time you requested it?
It took 58 days from the first
You did
request.
receive it. It took 58
right,
days.
58 days. I got a determination on December 11.
Okay, thank you.
58 days.
Member Washburn?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrer, I'm curious, how long did it take before you asked for a determination about this record or records, understanding that you would hear something within 10 days? Before the 10 days were up, did you receive any communication from the supervisor of records saying, this is a complicated matter, we understand you'd like a determination, but we have some more work to do for it?
No, I received 2 emails from Paul Jason, one on October 15, saying that, and basically she ends up with, I will review and respond to your petition, and receive another one in October 21, saying, I will respond to your petition as soon as my review is completed. But she gave me no indication as to when was that going to be, even though in the reply of the respondent, they say that that is their practice to give good faith estimates on page 4, paragraph 3. You're going to see in his own response. So they violated even their own rules. So my question is, 59 days, 3 months, 2 years, what is the limit? What is the expectation? Timeliness is at the essence in disclosures. I mean, like somebody said, justice delayed is justice denied. And that's the very key thing. And the way I felt was totally disregarded. If you follow my letter in reply to their answer, you're going to see a timeliness of backdoor conversations in between the supervisor of records, the custodian of records, and the city attorney. So they were perfectly and full aware of the value of that information for me. But she chose not to give me any indication. Even though an appeal failed because of not having that information that I counted on. So it didn't work for me, like, the respondent is talking. But it wouldn't work for anybody if we allow then politics or any other issue get involved, and then it could take 9 months. Mm-hmm. What is the standard?
So at no point, so was there a point at which they, so you received a response after 59 days. But before that time, did that kind of come out of the blue, or did they never?
Only after. My complaint is when I first got my first good faith estimate, and that was on the 39th day of my first request. And then I was told it was going to, I would get, on November 22nd, I received correspondence from them saying, we expect to make a determination by Wednesday of next week. But you have to remember that I put my complaint on, I think, November 4. Well, it took them already more than 2 weeks just to make up their minds and send me and analyze, okay, well, we made a boo-boo here, okay, we're going to have to send something over here. So it took 39 days after my first request and 33 days after my second request to give me the first good faith estimate. If that is the standard we're going to hold our public officials, I don't know what the standards are anymore.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrer. What are the estimates you're referring to? Give us a little bit of background on the nature of the information you're requesting.
The original was regarding employment. Mm-hmm. That was, I put some employment application, and I requested some information regarding how the employment went, the selection process took place, and I made a bunch of requests.
Okay.
Regarding, and it's not an unusual request, not a very first legal determination about employment application records. So it's not as complex as the respondent wants you to believe. It's very common, but taking 58 days is inadmissible. Thank you.
I'm kind of hearing that the city attorney is saying that due diligence ranks higher than the sunshine. That's what I'm hearing out of this.
Well, I just look at it, if we just look at the facts and what we're here to look at, on September 9th, the complainant made an IDR. He didn't hear from them. The next time he heard from them was September 27th. So right there, that is too much time. So that right there is a violation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems that after that, then they started to kind of communicate a bit more. But from the very first thing, because I don't understand why they couldn't just in 10 days say, you know, what you're asking for requires some more information or blah, blah. What he's saying is that give them some more definite information. So we'll need another week, if, you know, kind of have that kind of conversation. And instead, he never heard anything for 3 weeks, 9th to the 27th, 3 weeks later. Yeah, like almost 3 weeks later. So that right there to me is an initial violation. And then I do understand he's asking for employment things, which might have some kind of things that they cannot release, but that I feel like that should have been said initially, that there's some issues with what he's asking for. But nevertheless, he was never contacted initially with an IDR, and the rules of that IDR say that some kind of form of communication should have been made, which was not made. And that's where that's my first issue right there. So if we keep it simple right there, never mind what he was asking for, because then that becomes a whole nother layer and a complexity of things that we can get into, but that right there is the first thing for me. So I'd love to hear from what other people, remember Nee?
Yeah, I don't see necessarily IDR violations here. I mean, according to the record that we have, Mr. Ferrer sent his first request to Ms. Jessen on October 15, and as a matter of fact...
Look on the complaints on the memo. The first thing I see, back on September 9th, 2013, the complainant made an IDR request.
Okay, but was that IDR request to the city attorney?
GSA. Oh, to the GSA.
Yeah, I might be
That
able
was
to...
to the GSA.
So
And if there was an IDR response
okay.
violation, that would be on the GSA's part.
Okay.
I might be able to bring a little, provide a little clarity. That from what I gather, the complainant made an IDR to the GSA for some employment application records.
Mm-hmm.
And the GSA, it appeared, did not respond until the 27th, but he did not bring a complaint for an IDR violation here. What he did was then go to the city attorney's office as a supervisor of records and ask them to make a determination of whether or not he was wrongfully denied records from the GSA that were public.
So he got to them after.
From there, the supervisor of records, according to the 67.21D, says that they shall provide a determination within 10 days. And he did not receive a response for 59 days.
So he did not receive a response.
The complaint at issue is against the supervisor of records for failing to provide a determination as to whether or not the records he was denied by the GSA were actually public.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Member Nee.
Yes. Continuing and going to the point of the respondents, and I apologize, sir, I'm forgetting your name. Please accept my apology on that. But the gentleman, said something about the language of the spirit of the language of the law superseding the intent of the voters. That's a speculation, and as a matter of fact, the Sunshine Ordinance was written by attorneys familiar with Sunshine law. The original version was written by Terry Frank, who at the time was Executive Director, General Counsel of the First Amendment Coalition. He is now the General Counsel with Californians Aware. The lion's share of the draft work on the current version of the ordinance was done by Thomas Burke and Stephen LeBlanc, both of whom have quite a lot of knowledge and experience on Sunshine matters. So the voters, were, when they passed the current version in 1999 by a margin of 58-42, they knew what they were voting on, and it seems to me there is nothing ambiguous here in the language of 67.21D, which can be found on our packet page 59. If the custodian, let's see, then in italics, the supervisor of records shall inform the petitioner. Shall inform the petitioner of its determination setting the windows. There is nothing ambiguous about that.
Sorry. I was going to ask if the person representing the city attorney's office could come back up.
Please give us your name once again.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
I apologize for
It's
that,
all
sir.
right, perfectly all right. It is my major league debut, as it were. So. First name is Gabriel, Gabriel. My last name is Zitrin, Zitrin. I'm sure that's written down somewhere.
Thank you, Mr.
So are you the new Jack Song?
I am the new Jack Song.
Okay. So I want to ask that, do you think that this was just an oversight by the city attorney, that they did not respond within 10 days, saying this is going to take longer than this 10 days? Or are you literally making the argument that the letter, it seems reasonable to me. This is what seems reasonable to me, for the response to have been, wow, this is a lot more complicated, it's going to take longer than 10 days, and it seems reasonable to get that two sentences to the complainant within 10 days.
I think that my understanding from my conversations with Paula Jessen is that that part of it was more of an oversight as far as just notifying within 10 days, you know what, this is going to take longer than 10 days. If no such communication was made, I think it wasn't, I haven't looked at the exact timeline, wasn't that much more between the reference of the matter to the supervisor of records and the first notification that this was going to be a very complex matter. And I think if that wasn't made within 10 days, that would fall within the category of oversight. But then I've written enough legal memoranda to know that the complexity issue can get on top of you when you think you know what the law is, and then you see something else and you realize that this is going, you know, you can't predict that accurately. And you're quite right that, you know, there are two different phases to this. There's a phase that says, okay, this is complex and we can notify them, and then there's the phase where you actually manage to get all the way around the law so you know that what you're saying is right under the law. But yes, I think we can probably say that it was an oversight to not get fast enough out to say, all right, this is going to take a while, and, you know, here's what's going to happen.
Okay, so I just want to, I guess I want to, what I want to understand is the amount of time between when the request was made and the response, right? There's this 59, like there's all these different number of days that are getting thrown around. And it seems to me that this should not be a question of interpretation. There should be a certain number of days that between the request was made and a response was, and a response of more than we received a request, like a response that says, this is going to take some time. I just want us to not disagree on these number of days. And I'm wondering, because it sounds like what you just said, that maybe you see it differently than the complainant.
Well, he knows the timeline better than I do, as I did come on after the time, you know, after all these different communications bounced back and forth. I don't know when the first, and perhaps Mr. Ferrer can address this, the specific date of his appeal to the supervisor of records, and then the first communication that he received from the supervisor of records.
Okay. Mr. Ferrer, would you please come up? I would like to nail down this just so that we can all have the facts.
For sure.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Do you understand the question that I'm asking?
Right. The petition, the original petition was made on October 13, but since October 13...
To the supervisor of records.
To the supervisor of records.
Okay, October 13. Perfect.
Then, but since it was a Sunday, the email was sent on Sunday, we can consider 14th, Monday. And on the 15th, she replies, I will review and respond to your petition.
Okay.
On October 21st, she responded to my, on October 20, I think it is, it's on my, I made the second request. On October 21st, I get a reply from Sir, and actually in that reply, she talks about the importance for my appeal. If you see it, it's perfectly in my reply to their reply. And on October 21st, it says, they say, I will respond to your petition as soon as my review is completed. Then I don't receive any other meaningful expected date for my reply until November 27, which is 39 days after my first request, and 33 days after my second request. Then I receive the actual, then there are certain delays, and they're telling me you're going to get next Wednesday, and they couldn't, then tell me you're going to get the following Wednesday, and it took about, I would say, several days more until...
But, so, sir, you got a response on the 14th or the 15th, and then the 21st. But it was just, but that response was just saying we received your complaint.
Right.
There was nothing. There was just
nothing saying this is complex or not complex.
Gotcha. So it wasn't until 39 days, roughly 39 days later, that you received a response.
The first minimum establishing a good faith estimate.
Okay.
And actually, it's in violation of their own policy because they're saying, well, this doesn't apply. Our policy is this. Well, you didn't even comply your own policy.
But I just want to nail down these.
It is. There are copies in the records, every single copy.
Perfect, great. And so I just want to ask this Mr. Zitron. I hope I got that right that time. Close?
You did.
Very good. Does that timeline?
Yeah, that seems to be with the record.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments or anything from the members?
I would just urge the task force to, and with all deference to the city attorney's office, we are looking at them as the supervisor of records in this case, not as the city's attorney's office. That's important. And therefore, we must, I think, find violation in that role and put aside any other thoughts of what else they do. That's what I wanted to point out.
Member David?
Have we had rebuttals yet?
Not yet. Member David?
No, other question?
I'd like to invite, if you have any last rebuttal or comments, no, not you yet. I'm going to get to public comment. I'd like to invite the respondent, Mr. Zittrain, up, and you have 3 minutes to kind of give us like a summary or any last comments you'd like to offer.
I want to sort of enlighten you as to a conversation that we were having just about the unpredictability of sort of the scheme going forward. If we were to, and some of the hypothetical numbers that Mr. Ferrer is throwing around are very scary. Well, why couldn't they take 6 months or 2 years or whatever? But as you know, that is not what customarily happens. As you know, these are unusual cases when these things run beyond 10 days. And nobody is really sure what the scheme would look like if we were to adopt his interpretation, in the sense that nobody's really sure what it would look like if we were handing over whatever we had on day 10. Now, there are, if you review, it was on page 3 of Matt Dorsey's letter of November the 14th, where he hypothesizes, and we don't really know, but he hypothesizes, adopting, might be forced to adopt a presumption in all cases that the departmental decision being challenged is correct, or abandoning the longstanding practice of issuing written explanations in support of the determination. Now, we don't want to do any of those things, obviously, and we also can't predict that's what's going to happen. We're not threatening to do any of those things because we just don't know what is going to happen or how it's going to look. You'd be opening up something of a can of worms. But regardless, I think we can say responses are likely to be somewhat more terse, if you will, and it might create a perception, and we need to avoid this, but we might create a perception, particularly in the event of a negative determination, if the respondent is, or if the city department is upheld by the supervisor of records. We don't want there to be a determination, we don't want there to be a perception that the supervisor of records backed them up, with just sort of a terse, comparatively minimal legal analysis, when in actuality the reason that the legal analysis was not complete was not because we had any kind of agenda in favor of the city department, but just because, it's day 10, we're handing over whatever we've got. And it's just an eventuality, we're worried that from the standpoint of the public, we want them to have a little more confidence than that. I wanted to raise the concern with the task force that we don't want to create any kind of perception, either that we're favoring respondents or that we're favoring city departments.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite the complainant back up if you have any other. Yeah, you have 3 minutes to kind of give us some concluding remarks.
Well, it is not the prerogative not to issue determinations not in writing. The ordinance is very specific that if we request the ordinance in writing, the determination in writing, it should be made in writing. So it's not the prerogative of the supervisor of records to do so. And actually, what we're talking about is in terms of capacity and ability to provide legal determinations and time schedules, proper time schedules. That's what we're talking about. But there was a violation, the law is written that way, and I want the supervisor of records to be held responsible for such violation. But if you read the record, it plainly disregarded my petition. And what is more concerning is the backdoor emails that you're going to see among the supervisor of records, the GSA, custodian of records, and actually another deputy city attorney. And they are not enlightening. They are very worrying. And if we allow the city attorney and the supervisor of records to have all the time of the world to issue a complaint, it's going to become very politicized. Because people are going to get pressure for favors in delaying this or delaying that. And we know how it works. So if we're going to talk real, my concerns are much more against, the wrong interpretation. That is going to cause much more damage to the public of San Francisco, the citizens of San Francisco.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to open up for conversation amongst the members, and if there's a motion. Member David.
Well, I just, so, what I'm concerned about is, what I see as the problem here was the lack of communication between, in a timely manner. I in no way want to make a ruling that encourages the supervisor of records, the city attorney, any department to rush and do terse statements, right? I think that it's absolutely appropriate for within 10 days to say, hey, this is going to take more time, this is complicated, and we want to get you a full answer. And so the thing that I'm concerned about is what I hear both the complainant and respondent both talking about is having to do this full determination within 10 days. And that's not where my concern, that's not, I don't know where everyone else is on the task force. That's not the message that I want to send. The message that I want to send is that there needs to be a communication if it's going to take longer than 10 days, and in no way make this ruling have the supervisor of records or anyone be able to say, oh, well, the Sunshine Task Force said we have to respond within 10 days, so all of our responses are now going to be terse. Like that, I want to just make that very clear that there is no way that is what I'm looking for if we find a violation. Right? To me, this is a violation. To me, there is a violation, and it's simply that the supervisor records did not communicate within 10 days that this was going to take longer. And that was pretty much, as long as there was that one email that said, hey, this is going to take a lot longer. We think it's going to take 3 weeks. If it's going to take longer than that, we'll be in touch with you within 3 weeks. Right? The actual, what was finally sent to them, I thought was fine. It's just that there was not the intermediary communication is what I'm concerned about.
There's no consistent communication.
Right.
I kind of agree.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If the information is not supplied within 10 days of an IDR, there's a violation.
Wait, no, that's right. But what I'm saying,
regardless of whether they say it's going to take longer. I mean, it's...
No, I think that you can. I think you can request for an extension.
Yes.
That I believe you can.
Okay.
And that's what was missing, and that the level of communication, I think that's what you're doing. I agree with you. I think the level of communication was missing, and it was not consistent. And so he's just floating around the 10-day policy. Now that I understand that was supervisor records and not the GSA, that all these different places. So I find that I agree with Member David in that. But I also agree with the complainant in that, you don't want this to float around forever. But I think if there had been a consistent communication from the supervisor of records office, then you wouldn't find yourself in this situation, because it is a complex issue and there are things that needed to be discussed. And there was no consistent communication in here. And that's where the IDR, for me, the IDR right there, that's the violation right there initially.
But acknowledging my ignorance and knowing that there is an extension available, how many such extensions are available? What's the timeline on that? Can anybody tell me that?
Yeah, I don't know
Member
about that. Oh, Member Nee?
Well, I respectfully, I disagree with the extension matter. The extension has to do with the provision of a record itself, not with the question of. There is no extension in the law on a determination of whether a record is disclosable. That is not in 6721D.
But that's what they did not answer
Well, they didn't even answer it, and even if they had said they needed an extension, that still would have been a violation of the law.
Yeah, so since they didn't answer it, right, just to be clear, right, since they didn't answer it, that's the violation to begin with right there. They never answered that. Right. That was the violation.
But the extension
Member
is usually, I think what you're saying, Member Nees, is that the extension is to find and locate a document, not to make a determination. That's a important point.
That's correct.
Member Washburn.
I agree completely with Member Nee. There's nothing in that section about an extension. This is a determination of whether something's a public record or not, and it's too bad the complainant didn't then come to the task force, because we can make that determination too. It doesn't often happen. But I'm really having a problem with the meaning of the word shall. Because, just listening to the chain of events and kind of reading between the lines, I'm envisioning sort of there was an admitted oversight, and then Paula Jessen understood the timeliness issue here. She acknowledged that. But then if you interpret shall to mean, may make a determination within 10 days, then you really could conceivably, like the complainant says, take all the time in the world. If you don't think of shall meaning, I'm supposed to get this person a determination within 10 days. That's what the law says. So I think, shall means what we all commonly think it means. This is what you must do, not what you may do. And so, when I read that, I have to say I was thinking this is kind of after the fact trying to justify having, just had a lapse in oversight and, trying to explain why you didn't do what the law required you to do.
Member David?
So I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think I'm going to take the position of this is where I would agree that the letter of the law and the spirit of the law are a little bit of conflict with each other. That there has to be, it can't be that rigid that every case fits into this 10-day time frame. That there has to be, if a department or the supervisor of records is making a good faith effort to respond and communicate within 10 days about something, I think that there has to, from my point of view, some flexibility around that. So that's where, that's where I kind of come down.
Mm-hmm.
But on this specific case, I clearly think that there was a violation. We're now getting into more theoretical, conversations. So I just want to say that, although it doesn't specifically say there's extensions, it feels to me that the spirit, as long as people are making really good faith efforts, and then you can get to, what's a good faith effort? And we can go down that rabbit hole another night if we want to.
I think
Both parties are talking in agreement. So, Member Nee.
Our statements of economic interest, Form 700, are due to be filed on April 1st. Doesn't say that this isn't optional. This isn't
shall be filed.
It says shall. And if we call the Ethics Commission and say, oh well, it's a little more complex than I had thought, it's a little more complex than usual, that's not going to sit with them. Our forms 540 and 1040, our tax returns are due to be filed on April 15th. Again, if it's a little bit more complex than we had anticipated, well, that's our problem, not the IRS's and not the franchise tax boards. Madam Chair, I move we find the supervisor of records in violation of Section 67.21D of the Sunshine Ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up for discussion, public comment.
I'm Peter Warfield. I did not come for this particular item, though I'm interested, and I'm not familiar with the details. But I have to say from the discussion, the city attorney's response, welcome to the novel 1984, where black is white and war is peace and so on and so forth. The city attorney's position is outrageous. Outrageous. And talking about speculative, on your page 59 where you quote section 6721, it's very clear. And let me just go backwards and say I support the motion. And I don't think you should be bashful or shy about it. Section 6721, which, by the way, is not in your notebook out here, there's a couple of pages missing, but it is on your page 59, is intended for a person to get a fast answer. That's specifically what it's there for, to get a quick response. They lure you in with that promise, and that's been there since at least 1999, 15 years. Was there any objection by the city attorney at the time this was passing? Has there been any objection since? If the custodian refuses, fails to comply, or incompletely complies with a request described in Section B, the person making the request may petition the supervisor of records for a determination whether the record requested is public. The supervisor doesn't have to dig through old files or look through, just a determination as you've discussed. In italics, as Member Nee noted, the supervisor of records shall inform the petitioner as soon as possible and within 10 days of its determination whether the record requested or any part of the record requested is public. There is no allowance for, oh, it got tougher than we thought, or oh, we got busy, or oh, the dog ate it, or any such preposterous excuse. And talk about speculative, the newbie who they send who doesn't know the history, and as far as I'm concerned, this is a systematic ripoff on the public that the supervisor has been doing since I filed for a determination 10 years or more ago, and 8 years into it, I called up, they didn't know what happened to it, they didn't know, and eventually it turned out, oh, it was somehow left at the front office, and we never pay attention to that time limit anyway. That's what they told me on the phone 10 or more years ago. I've pointed out to you that the supervisor of records in the annual report systematically leaves out when the request was made and when the answer was given. I don't think this is a first. On page 87, their argument is, in the real-world context and so on, must be understood, if the 10-day provision were treated as an absolute requirement, there could be unfortunate consequences. Very speculative. They are in violation clearly and need to be told unmistakably.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
I never thought that I'd be speaking in support of the city attorney's office. I'm sorry. But quite a few times I made petitions to the supervisor of records by email, and I didn't know anything about this 10-day rule. I just got her on the phone after a week, 7 days or so, and I just asked, what's going on, and she told me. She said, you'll get it in a couple days and a week, and I'm like, okay, we're cool. Even once, she went out of her way to mail me documents because I didn't want to go to the front desk there and pick it up. So, I don't know about all these legalities. I think the guy does have an issue because he did had a deadline. He was filing an appeal, and the deadline was approaching. I can understand all that, and it was a complex issue. But this lady is approachable. You can get her on the phone. You can send her emails. She is going to respond. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment on this issue?
Let me say that I'm more encouraged by the discussion on this case than your previous two. What Mr. Zitman tried to do to you tonight legally is why I quit practicing law. I had to sleep with myself. At best, his arguments are disingenuous. Shall language is mandatory. We all know that, and Mr. Zitman learned that in his first year of law school. I strongly urge you to make a finding against the city attorney. And when the city attorney is a custodian of records, the violation is even more egregious, isn't it? When the city attorney is a custodian of records and he violates the law. The language of the Sunshine Ordinance is 10 days to respond. There's no extensions. We don't allow the city attorney to, do other things like send out emails about one of his associates getting appointed federal judge instead of working on getting the records that the complainant asked for. So clearly there was a clear violation of the Sunshine Ordinance, and the city attorney, I'm sure, is well aware of that. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment on this issue? I'm going to close public comment. guys are ready then to vote on the motion?
The motion is to find violation of Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.21D. On that motion, Member Nee.
Correction, I believe the motion states that we find a violation by the supervisor of records
Yes.
of 67.21D.
Of the supervisors of records of 67.21D.
Correct. On the motion, I vote aye.
Nee, aye. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Member Sims.
Aye.
Sims, aye. Member David.
Aye.
David, aye. Member Highland.
Aye.
Highland, aye. Vice Chair Fisher.
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Chair Grant.
Aye.
Grant, aye.
So the supervisor of records has been found in violation. Like to get some input from you on this. It's a little bit complicated, but where to, from the members, where perhaps to send this.
Would you like an extension?
It again? Yeah, I'd like an extension. Our options are to further this, to send it to EOT, or options are ethics. I don't think compliance amendments, because they know that I'd love to get some input on you on this one, because I think compliance amendments, this is passed and they didn't give it to him in a timely manner, but...
No, I don't think it belongs in compliance and amendments. No. I'm just wondering about, I'm still hung up on that, on the meaning of the word shall, and wanting to, make a strong statement that the letter of the law should be followed here. The letter and the spirit of the law are pretty much the same thing in this case. So I'm not... Member Nate, do you have any ideas about what to do?
Well, I was just going to say that if we want to send it to ethics, it would require an additional motion of finding a violation of 67.34.
Yeah. So since we don't have that at this time, then thank you for that. I would like to send this to EOT.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't see what that's going to accomplish, honestly. I'm worried about the word shall and the way that it was interpreted. I think there's enough grounds here to maybe make that second motion and send this straight to ethics.
You can make it and see if it passes. So if that's at this time, I'm not straight taking it to ethics. I think that there's some things that still need to be worked out with in EOT and education, and understanding the meaning of the word shall. It can go to education and training, because that interpretation is problematic, because we're here serving the public. And so if you guys are in that, butting heads about that, hold on one second. Okay. Butting on that point, then you're not going to go anywhere. So I see education, outreach, and training. I don't know if you know what that is. It's so it's a subcommittee that goes into the main issues and the problems that happened in this case, to try to avoid those in the future and move forward from that. So actually, and as I'm talking it out, because it is at my discretion, I am going to send it to education, outreach, and training. So found in violation, I'm going to send it to education, outreach, and training.
May I still discuss and make a motion? Okay.
Yeah.
Sitting on the Education, Outreach, and Training Commission, committee rather.
On that too.
I think we do our best work with departments or custodians of records that really don't know the process. I really don't think that's the case here with the city's attorney's office. I just don't. I think this would be a wasted step in what's a pretty serious case. I think we need to nip this. We need to give it its highest attention, and we need to send it to ethics right now.
You can make a motion, and let's see what happens.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion from the members? Then I'd like to open it up to public comment on this issue.
Bravo, Mr. Highland. Your motion find a willful violation. Clearly, there's a willful violation. Don't be intimidated by the city attorney. Strongly support willful violation in this case. The refusal to give the public records was a decision by somebody in the city attorney's office that they had higher priorities. The language is clear. You send it to the Ethics Commission. There's lawyers on the Ethics Commission. They understand the language of shall and may. You let the city attorney go to Superior Court and ask for declaratory relief if he has a discretion pursuant to that language. He won't do that. But he will go to the Ethics Commission, and on the Ethics Commission sits lawyers, and lawyers can address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment on this issue, on this motion? If not, are you coming up?
I'm a layman to all this, but I think that Mr. Highland made a very good point. These are lawyers, and they should know the meaning of the words. And I'm not so sure that their representative here really does, having listened to him, but I think he probably does. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
Yes, it's a serious violation, and you should take the firmest possible steps.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Will you?
Are you to make public comment?
No, you can't. Sorry. I'm going to close public comment. There's a motion on the can you take the roll call vote?
Yes, on the motion to find the custodian of public records in willful violation.
Supervisor records.
Supervisor of records. To have excuse me. I am not clear on what the code section is for willful violation.
67.34.
67.34. In violation of Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.34. On that motion, Member Nee?
Aye.
Nee, aye. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Member Sims?
No.
Sims, no. Member David?
No.
David, no. Member Highland?
Aye.
Highland, aye. Vice Chair Fisher?
No.
Fisher, no. Chair Grant?
No.
Grant, no. The motion fails.
Okay. Thank you. So at this time, we're going to go back, and this will go to EOT. At that time, just to let you know, this could come back to the full task force, and it could still go to ethics. So love to see you guys really work with the public on this one. That's it. So at this time, I'd like to just take a quick 10-minute break because we've finished with all the cases, and then we can come back to some of the work that we need to take care of. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Victor, can you read the next item on the agenda, please?
Item number 6, Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Annual Report.
So can you update? So what is it that we haven't done one?
In approximately 2 years.
Okay.
I believe the last one was in 2011, 2012.
Okay.
I believe we are supposed to issue an annual report on a yearly basis.
Okay. So have you sent me a copy of an example of the annual report?
I did send out a copy of the draft of the annual report from 2011.
Okay.
However, the formats over the years are vary greatly.
So is it up to, it comes from me, right? Or does it come from the whole task force? Do we all can work on a part of it, or how's that worked previously? Because I've never done one. Member Nee?
Madam Chair, I believe that in the past, the chair asks the chair of each committee to provide a summation of the activities of the committee, major cases handled, decisions reached since the previous report, and that would mean, I guess, 2 years, and then those reports are collated, and the chair then gives a summation to go at the top, an introduction, and I think that usually the chair has asked task force members to submit what comments and observations they would like.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I can do that then. So, is there a microphone?
Sorry. So what I'm looking at that you sent us was like 46 pages.
46?
Well, that's what I'm looking at right here. Is that the norm?
Because I would think that with all the, if you want to talk about
So it's-
cases from the committee, the subcommittees,
March of 2013.
take a little bit more. Remember Rushburn? I'm sorry. I see you.
I think it would be helpful for Victor if you could send us copies of the last report. I probably have my part of it that I did last time, but
Okay.
it would help with, so you know the formatting and what needs to be included, if you could send that to
Good
us.
question. The one I'm looking at came from the Office of the City Attorney. Is that who it comes from?
No, it does not. I believe that's the Supervisors of Records report that
Yeah.
you're looking
I'm
at.
looking at the wrong one.
Okay.
And I was going to say, I mean, not to put undue pressure on the committee heads, it would be fabulous to have this done before we're up for re-election.
Yeah, so that would be next. The terms end April 26th, so that means we could do a, what do you call it, a rough draft for in a month for the next meeting. How, is that a lot for you? Like, member Pilpel's not here. Member Washburn? Because I would,
That's doable.
That's
Yeah.
doable?
If I have a copy of the old one.
Okay.
And then the information I need is probably in the minutes.
okay.
So I'm going to
Which I
interrupt you
can
again.
grab, yeah.
So I did find from Jerry, no, from
I know yours never met.
Ms. Osbury, sent to us on November 5th, 2012. There were 4 attachments in there for the annual reports from 08 through 12.
Okay.
Can I just forward that to, am I allowed to forward that to everybody?
Yeah, let Victor do
I
it.
will,
Just
I will
send the last one, that would be
I'll
good.
send the last few annual reports out
And
to the
then,
members.
okay, so will you make a note of that on the agenda for the April meeting?
Yes, I will place this item on the agenda for the April 2nd meeting.
Okay. Okay, and then we'll reach out to Member Pelpel for the EOT and to Member Washburn's here so she knows, and we'll just kind of do like a rough draft, and, because it won't be the final by April 5th, April 2nd. But I will get it done before the April 26th so that people
Yes.
that want it. Now, let me ask you this, Member Nee, what about they haven't met, but like, in those previous reports, was like Rules Committee, things like, was all that in there?
Complaints
Or
Committee?
Complaints, we haven't done that, so we don't have anything for that then.
Well, if the, pardon my lapse of memory here, but
okay.
I don't recall when the complaint committee was retired, so to speak.
Got it.
If the complaint committee met since the issuance of the last report, then perhaps we should just give a list of what cases month by month the complaint committee handled, what decisions it made on those cases, or another option would be just to say that the complaint committee was retired by the current chair of the task force,
Okay.
and then state when you did it.
Okay, I don't recall. I need to go back and look what we did with that. Okay, so
That's I think, a reasonable suggestion.
okay, thank you. Okay, is there any more questions on, about this annual report?
By the way, Doug Comstock's from 2008 was 32 pages.
Okay, that's fine. So we just said that we're going to come back with tentative reports by the next meeting?
Yes, I will submit
By the April meeting.
previous versions of the annual report to all members, and I will work with the chair to develop a draft of the annual report for this year.
Okay.
And it'll be placed on the next agenda approximately April 2nd of 2014.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Do I need to take a vote or anything?
We can take public comment, and then we can move to
Someone,
continue
I can't
this
see, is
item.
someone here? I can't see. Okay. So we were talking about the annual report. I don't know if you, were you here when we just brought this whole thing up, about the annual report?
No, but I'd like to comment.
Okay. So, since you're the only person, I'd like to invite you up for public comment.
Let's see if there's anybody else.
I can't see.
Yeah, I don't understand how the chairperson of this committee can suspend a complaint committee by him or herself. Your bylaws provide the jurisdictions of the committees, and it seems to me that you'd have to amend your bylaws in order for you to terminate a subcommittee. And that hasn't been done. When you do amend your bylaws, you have to give public notice, and they have the right then to respond or object or concur. So I don't really think that, I think you're violating your bylaws by you doing something unilaterally. I'm much more comfortable with orders of determination going to the Complaint and Compliance Committee than an Education and Training Committee, for a lot of reasons. I personally feel that the chairperson of your Education and Training Committee is really not sunshine friendly. But more importantly, I think that you really don't have the authority to terminate committees on your own unilaterally. I think that's a decision that has to be done with bylaw amendments. Thank you.
Thank you.
A motion to continue to April the 2nd, 2014.
Can I get a motion to continue? Second. Right. Bless you. If there's no objection, I'm going to say that this item is passed without objection until the continue to the April 2nd meeting on this issue. Can you read the next item?
Item number 7, Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Bylaws, Review and Possible Amendments.
So this is just from the administrator who's been going through all of these complaints, had some suggestions. This isn't a vote or anything. Obviously, we can't do that. But he had some items he just wanted to discuss and put in your head for possible, changes in the future. But want you to have this at the top of your head. So, Victor?
Yes, I have been working with the Mayor's Office on Disability concerning the ADA requirements. I believe that there has been past issues where we have approximately 15 complaint files that are over a year old that were yielded pursuant to an ADA request.
Mm-hmm.
And we have also had items continued in the middle of a meeting due to ADA requests. So I did contact Mayor's Office on Disability to see what the requirements we are required to follow are. And just to summarize, we must provide equal opportunity and accommodations for participation in the process. Accommodations must be directly related to the disability. Requesters for accommodation must state what the disability is and exactly what accommodation is requested. The task force does not need to go to extremes to accommodate ADA requests. Concerning this issue, I would like to try to integrate this into the bylaws and the upcoming complaint procedures. The next issue that concerning the bylaws, there are several outdated issues in the bylaws. The regular meeting date does not reflect our first Wednesday of the month meeting. I wanted to change tape recording to audio recording. Concerning attendance tracking, it currently states that I am to track absences over a 12-month period on a rolling basis. I would like to firm that up to make that either a calendar year or a fiscal year for ease of tracking. And I would like to suggest that you authorize the administrator to be able to enforce certain issues, such as jurisdiction for departments that we do not have jurisdiction over, that are listed in our FAQ, such as, I believe, the Housing Authority and the City College. We do get appeals concerning those entities where we do not have jurisdiction. However, I do have to call in those entities for a hearing because I cannot deny the complaint. I do not have the authority to deny it for jurisdiction. Those are my initial thoughts on the bylaws.
Any comments?
I kind of have a question, since you brought it up, the thing about the absences. I mean, it says in our bylaws that if you're absent for 3 meetings or something, then something happens. But we have been having special meetings, so maybe this is a question for Nick. Special meetings don't count towards that, right? They just mean the actual, because, we add all these extra meetings. We have 2 meetings per month. It does make it a little more challenging with vacations, surgeries, other things.
I don't know. I don't know if it provides for whether or not special meetings would count towards that, but I can look into it to see if.
I believe the language was regularly scheduled.
It's regular,
Okay.
yeah. It's just for
I'm
the regular
trying to
meetings.
find it. Okay.
Because it was at our discretion.
Okay.
To do the extra meetings, so that wouldn't even.
Okay, so that doesn't count then.
We have a lot of different meetings, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Member Nee and Member David.
And
sorry.
Well, and my other question was, I know earlier in our tenure together, we discussed excused absences, but then that went away. So I take it that's away.
This is all at your discretion at this time if you would like to make amendments to the bylaws.
So that's what this is why this conversation is happening, but we can't make anything right now because that has to all be voted on, and that's a whole few meetings just for bylaws.
That's a whole big mishigas.
It does bring up some interesting issues. Member Nee?
Yeah, I was going to raise the question of the excused absences. Also, do we want some kind of provision on absences from committee meetings?
I don't think there is one right now.
Yeah,
There is not one.
nothing.
And, do we want to add one?
Yeah.
Or do we want to somehow include it? It's something I think we should think about.
Yeah, because it should be. I do think that there is, people don't know, it's kind of weird language because you don't know. There is nothing in there now. So if we're very clear, you're right.
I think the previous administrator told me
could add
that did not count towards absences.
What
This is
did it
committee
count?
meetings.
Yeah, but I think what Member Nee is suggesting is maybe we add this, and that, it could be 2 different things. We could do a lot of different things.
Yes.
So that's what to think about. So you add that to your note,
Yes.
that was a suggestion. Member David?
So I was wondering, can you talk a little bit more about the City College and the Housing Authority? What you were thinking about changing the bylaw? I know they're different entities, and so they're not covered. So what was your point about?
Well, if there's a complaint filed against those entities, I do not have the authority to deny the complaints, even
Currently.
though currently I do not.
So what you would like to do is have it in, what you're suggesting is that change the bylaw so that if we get a complaint about the Housing Authority or City College, and actually truthfully San Francisco Unified also is another legal
Yes,
entity.
there's a list of approximately 5 entities.
Right. And so, and then this is something that I think is a question maybe for the city attorney. One of the, and this goes specifically to City College and San Francisco Unified. So I know that with nonprofits that receive over a certain amount of city funding, I think it's $250,000, the Sunshine Ordinance applies to them. San Francisco is in a unique situation where city dollars, local dollars flow through to City College and to San Francisco Unified. And I do understand that they are different legal entities, but I'm kind of curious as to why they get more than $250,000 of city dollars. So why would the Sunshine Ordinance apply to a nonprofit that receives more than $250, but not to community college in San Francisco Unified when it receives tens of millions of dollars of city money?
I'd have to look into this, but I think even though that might be a way of pursuing it, but you'd need to go through the city agency that provides that funding, just like with any other nonprofit. So that might be a way of pursuing it. Also, even though the city creates these entities and they're separate, they're still state entities, so I believe they're still subject to the
Brown Act.
To the Brown Act, exactly. Right. Just whether or not they need to respond when we tell them that they need to appear at a meeting is another question. Unfortunately, a complainant might have to go the route of seeking declaratory relief from a court.
It was just one of these questions that has been on that. Now that we're talking about bylaws, it was something that is just I've been curious about, and so I didn't know if it's something that we can clarify specifically, because as we know, a CBO clearly that receives $250,000 or more is of city money has to be responsive to the Sunshine Ordinance. But I know that San Francisco Unified and City College is not, and it just seems inconsistent because of that they receive more than $250,000. So I was just trying to get some. I'm wondering, is there a way that we can clarify that? Is there something that as our city attorney is there a research or an opinion or something that we can get specifically on those two entities?
I could look into it as to whether or not we could bring in, SFHA or the school district or city college. I could see if there's a way that we could hold them before the task force if need be.
I guess it's not a question of if we want. It's more of a question of that. Does the $250,000 limit, does that tipping point apply? I'm not looking for a reason to bring them. I want to know that by law, because of the dollar amount, are they, have we just been ignoring it because they are a separate legal entity and it's never been brought up before as a question.
So basically whether or not they qualify as a nonprofit subject to that.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the question.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying my question.
Yeah, no worries.
Is there any more comments or questions about this? I think, Victor, what he was trying to do is noticing all the things that were most problematic, and I love that you did this because I think that it brings to mind the things, we're saying people bring these complaints, but there's nothing in the bylaws to kind of be kind of a legal or something that says this is what we should do or what we shouldn't do, particularly with cases that keep coming and then we just keep continuing them and they're just sitting there in limbo and things like that in one case. So I think that this is really going to be helpful as we move forward and trying to kind of, we said we're going to do this with the bylaws and try to make changes, but if there's other things that you guys think of based upon looking at the bylaws, definitely bring it to Victor's attention. But I think this is a really good start as far as administratively and trying to move things forward and get cases heard and not waste, anyone's time, public or our side either. So.
Could I add one thing? Did we discuss Section 7 already? Not there yet.
Oh, and number 7, no. We're just on the bylaws right now. So it was just really a discussion, no motion or anything like that. It was just really kind of...
No, I'm sorry.
On 6. We're on 6 still.
Okay, but I mean, I guess Article 3, number 7.
I'm sorry, we're on 7, yeah. I'm sorry.
We are, okay. Not to open up a can of worms or to reopen a can of worms, but there's been a lot of members of the public, and learned members of the public, including members of this task force, that have suggested that we should seriously look at the, achieving a majority vote for some substantive matters, or flipping the onus for a complainant to get something. Maybe the onus should be on the defendant or the respondent rather than the complainant. I know this has come up several times before. Is this the time to address this? it's probably going to take a long time, we're going to have to vote on it, et cetera, but I thought I'd throw it out just to...
Yeah, we're not voting on these right now because
No,
we
just
can't.
to
Yeah,
have
but
it.
you should definitely, because now we can add that as something that
It should
you
be,
want to bring
it
up.
should be something we don't just shelve and bury away in the back, because I think it's an important, it would make this, I think it would make this task force function much more efficiently.
So what are you, so what are you proposing exactly, so that
Well,
we know,
we
that's what
can't-
people can think about?
Clearly, we can't make the same mistakes that our predecessors did, otherwise we won't be here to see the fruits of our labor. Therefore, is there another way we can do that? Through the bylaws? Or is this charter territory that we're talking about? Perhaps Member Washburn can help me out here.
Well, we did amend the bylaws to change the majority
Requirement.
Yeah.
ceiling.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
It didn't work out very well. And, you know, I don't know if that was the real reason that the Board of Supervisors wanted to get rid of all of us. That's what they said. And they said that our bylaws violated the city charter. And we had lots of legal opinions about it, and, you know, both ways. But so then we, I guess, probably a year and a half ago, we dropped that. We got rid of that.
Reinstated that.
But you're right in that Alan Grossman had this way of, okay, if we flip the way we make motions, where you have to find
The respondent has to get the 6 votes, or get the majority votes.
Right.
To be acquitted, so to speak.
Right.
That's what sticks in my mind, Dr. Grossman's suggestion. Now, is that something that's...
I don't know if that's a bylaw thing. I think it could be just at our discretion when we make motions. It depends on how we phrase the motions. So I think it's a practice we could cultivate so that...
It says for the approval of all substantive matters. So do we change the approval the other way around? I mean, is there a way of doing this elegantly without violating the city charter, without to put the onus on the respondent? I mean, the fact that it's gotten all the way here, it's gotten through our clerk, it's gotten through several filters, means there's probably some merit here that Sunshine is being, trampled on. Therefore, is that enough justification? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh, Member Nee?
We could do it without violating the charter. That's not the real problem there. The real problem is, let's say there is a motion to find that the respondent has met his obligation, has complied with the public records request, and that vote is less than gets fewer than the required 6 affirmative votes. You've accomplished absolutely nothing. We've had motions to dismiss a complaint. It really and the motion fails. Then you might have, so you've accomplished nothing there. And as much as we want to have the onus, the burden of proof on the respondent, I'm really not sure that when we make our motions, there is any way around having to find, having to get an affirmative vote that the respondent is in violation of, Section XYZ of the ordinance. I don't see any way around it, and I certainly want to keep an open mind on it, and I certainly would like to see a way to place more of the burden of proof on the respondent. But right now, I'm just, let me just say I'll welcome all thoughts on it.
Maybe we should approach Mr. Grossman and see. I mean, he has a wealth of experience. He might have an interesting angle. I don't know.
Member Washburn?
I think one thing that would help is if we had a full complement of members, if we had 11 members. and we haven't had 11 members in two years. So, that's part of the problem.
And we didn't have an 88 for
Right.
6 months, so,
Right.
and that is all out of our hands. That's
Just
the
curious,
issue.
other task force, do they operate 100%, or is everyone about 80, 90? I don't know.
I don't know.
Victor, any idea?
I do not have a record of them, but
I'm 99% confident that every task force and commission operates under the same charter that we operate under. I'm 99% positive. I believe that there is one exception, and it is spelled out in the charter that, like by name, that there's this one commission that does not operate under this rule. And this all goes back, the history of this all goes back to the Harvey Milk and Moscone assassination, right? That Board of Supervisors had to pick the next acting mayor with a majority 6 supervisors, even though there were only 9 sitting at the time. So that's that's where a lot of the law comes from. And I know that I can't remember. I know that there is one that does not follow the charter, but I also know that it was spelled out specifically in the charter that one does not have to. I just can't remember what it is right now.
Member Nee?
Getting back to the whole question of majority of all members versus majority of those present, one of the problems I think is that the city charter and the Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order make no mention of whether a vacancy or an absentee counts as a member. There's, all three of those documents are silent on that. The assumption, and whether this assumption is valid, I won't go into right now, but the assumption has been, yes, a vacancy or an absentee does count as a member, and that is not just here. That is also in Sacramento. I called the parliamentarian in Sacramento a few years ago on this, and I was informed that regardless of how many seats are filled, and regardless of how many legislators are at a given meeting of the Senate or the Assembly, in all cases, a simple majority vote required is for the Assembly 40 plus 1, for the Senate 20 plus 1. A 2/3 majority. In the Senate, it's 27 or more. In the Assembly, 54 or more. 3/4, the respective numbers in the Senate and the Assembly are 30 and 60. And that's in all cases, regardless of whether they're absentees or vacancies. And those are the rules. Those are the rules they live by. And that's why, personally, when the task force voted to change the requirement a few years ago to make it simple majority of those present, I kind of erred on the side of caution and voted against. I was one of 2 dissenting votes on that motion.
Okay. Member Washburn?
I think the way the majority was, and I voted with the majority on that, I think our thinking was that, and we had some help from some legal minds, that our body was created by the voters for a particular reason, to provide more access for the public. And so the charter, when it mentions voting for boards and commissions, does not include us. We're special. We're separate. And furthermore, we're charged with, the ordinance says that we should interpret the ordinance in a way that is prejudiced in favor of the member of the public. I mean, we should err on the side of more openness, more access. Whenever it's a gray area, we go with the member of the public. So that was kind of our thinking, that we had because of the nature of what we were doing, we needed to make sure that we gave the member of the public, the complainant, the edge in gray areas.
Okay, thank you.
And we were making it difficult with only having 8, 9 members, people being absent, and the voting
Got it.
requirements. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that's an issue that will definitely be on there for when we get to the issue of trying to make some changes to the bylaws.
And I
So-
don't know if this is the right forum for this, but, I mean, really, the Rules Committee has crippled us the last 2 years. Plain and simple. Absolutely no effort to bring on those additional members. I believe you've written letters.
Absolutely. The Rules Committee.
That would all.
I just want to make sure you're referring to the Board of
The Board of
Supervisors.
Supervisors Rules Committee,
Rules Committee.
yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, not our,
Not,
yeah,
not
not
this.
us.
Not you guys.
Yeah.
No.
You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, they have. And so that was the issue before when I mean, it's just this continuing circle, it's just, and there's nothing more we can do. Trust me. We have gone personally,
Yeah.
visited them, and written letters.
Knocked on people's doors.
And we're not it's on them to move
I'm
the
just curious
process.
because we never get to hear about this, other than
Yeah,
these
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
No,
forums. So I'm just
I've
curious.
personally been in 2.
Right?
No,
I had an appointment with,
Yeah, I've walked into the members of the Rules Committee's offices and spoken to their legislative aides and
yes.
said, you guys got to fill these chairs like we have an empty. And
Though I made
so-
an appointment with Supervisor Chu, Board President Chu, and handed him a piece of paper and said, this is what we're missing, this seat and this seat, here's what we need.
So that's kind of
I know a lot of that depends on a certain critical mass of applicants, but I'd be curious to talk to the clerk and see how many applicants they have. I mean, it's all going to change because we're all going to be...
Victor, how many applicants do you think they have?
I
You've
do
heard?
not have a count on that. I can check.
But yeah.
Well, Suzanne's seat is really hard to fill because it's like so specific. It's like must be a female.
But they've nominated people, so that I mean, as much as we tried to get involved in it, it's out of our hands, so, there's no...
Maybe deferring to the older members of the task force. Is there anything else
Member
we can do?
Washburn.
I'm not sure. I mean, the sticking point with seat 1, member Nee's seat, my seat, Suzanne, my nice seat, is that organizations put forward names. And since the beginning of the task force, that's what they've done. But because the Rules Committee 2 years ago wanted to get rid of everybody, they insisted that the organization give them lists of names
Multiple names, yeah.
so they could get rid of us. And the organizations said, no, these are the people that we want. I mean, in my case, the League of Women Voters felt strongly that there needed to be some sort of institutional memory.
Absolutely.
And I've reapplied, and the organization thinks, that I still will serve that function. So the organizations, the organizations in concert with each other wrote letters, these are the people that we want. And they just ignored us.
But do they have binders of women for like Suzanne's position or something? Because that's been empty for a while.
Yeah.
And that has to be, you have to meet the diversity qualification. I believe she was Palestinian and she spoke Spanish and she was born in a month with an L in it. It was like...
Just so we can move this along.
Can I just make?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to say one thing is that I think really what's going on as far as the filling of the seats is that there's this standoff between whether it's the Rules Committee or the Board of Supervisors as a whole and these organizations. That the organizations have basically put up, one person,
Yeah.
right? And the organizations are saying that this is the one person we want. And I know that, like, the Rules Committee has said, can you give us like 2 or 3 people? then the organizations come back and said no. So just kind of, I think that at the end of the day is the standoff is between that. Would you say that that's accurate?
Two things, Madam Chair, with permission. Number one, 2 years ago was the first time that the Rules Committee made that demand. They had never done that before. Second, the Rules Committee then is totally different from the Rules Committee now. The Rules Committee then was Jane Kim, David Campos, and Mark Farrell. Now it is Norman Yee, London Breed, and Maya Cohen.
And who?
Malia Cohen.
No, I think that was last year's. I think now it's Katie Tang, Norman Yee, and Campos, Dave Campos.
Fine.
Yeah, that was last year's.
But it's very different from
But
when.
it's still much
Well,
different.
the common denominator is Supervisor Campos, but...
So,
May I suggest that I start keeping a list of proposed changes to the bylaws?
Yes.
And we can approve them on individual basis so that we are not trying to approve everything
Oh, that's a good idea.
at once.
Proposed
And
any
if-
changes yet?
Not yet, but he's going to start.
I have some proposals that I would like to make, and if members of the task force would like to send me any proposal, I will add them to the list, and then we can vote on them individually and...
Bring them
So-
to the agenda, one or two at a time.
Yes.
Because it obviously, each one brings up major discussion. So I don't know if it makes sense to do it in the order, like if there's something that is in the current bylaws that you are...
I will start from the beginning of the bylaws and...
Perfect. Okay. Another thing I think that's a good way to do it. Okay, so that ends that. Is there any, do you want to offer any public comment on this issue?
First, let me say there's nothing to preclude you tonight from making proposals to amend the bylaws and put it on for next month's agenda. So, I mean, you're having this discussion, but I don't see anything specific. If somebody on this task force has a specific proposal, you could put it on for next month's meeting, and then the public can then give input, and then the task force can vote on it. I welcome your suggestion, Task Force Member Highland, of changing the burden of proof. One way you could do that is that all complaints could go to the Compliance Committee, and if there's a prima facie case made out at the Compliance Committee, then it would come to the full task force, and the burden would be on the respondent to prove there has been no sunshine violation. Clearly, you could do that, and I think you should do that. Whether you'll do that or not is up to you. But there's nothing in your bylaws or the ordinance that mandates that the complainant should have the burden of proof. So, again, the complainant could go to a compliance committee, and at that time, the compliance committee could deal with the issue of jurisdiction. You waste far too much time on your task force regular meetings discussing jurisdiction. You don't need to do that. You could send it out initially to a compliance committee, let them determine jurisdiction and a prima facie case of a violation, and then when the complainant and the respondent come to you, the burden then would be on the respondent to prove that he didn't violate the Sunshine Ordinance.
Wouldn't a violation be a substantive action, and therefore that would have to be before the full committee?
Full task.
So, compliance committee couldn't make that substantive.
Well, the compliance committee could establish just a prima facie case of a violation and jurisdiction. Then the complaint and the respondent come to you, and then the respondent then has to prove that he didn't or she didn't violate, or the agency didn't violate the Sunshine Ordinance.
And then they have to get the majority of votes for that, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It's almost like filtering it once and flipping it and then giving it to the rest of us.
Yeah. It's very much like what the Rules Committee does. It's the Board of Supervisors who actually...
Listen, final vote. Something to consider. So, I mean, that's what we're talking about is perhaps putting one or two amendments, possible amendments, on the agenda for April. Right?
Yes, I'll develop a list, and you can choose the ones that you would like to take up.
Yeah, we'll start at the beginning. And
How
then,
about that one?
You know?
I like that.
So, yeah. So that's what we were talking about. Okay. So, there's no motion or anything. Can you go, did you have any?
Just motion to continue to April.
Okay. Did someone?
The April 2nd meeting.
Okay, great. Was there a motion made?
Not yet.
Okay.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. We do still have it? Okay, we have a quorum, yeah. Okay, great. If it looks like this, I can approve it. What's the word? I'm sorry. Without objection. Yeah, approve without objection. Can we go to the next item on the agenda?
Item number 8, Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Complaint Procedure, Review and Possible Amendment. This is the same situation where we do have a set of complaint procedures in place. If you would like, I can go over my list.
Yeah.
As previously, as stated a few minutes ago, we do have a complaint committee process in our procedures that is no longer being used. So it would either need to be revised or removed. Creating and implementing an official mediation procedure. There is nothing in our complaint procedures allowing me to officially mediate complaints, even though I do call the complainants and try to mediate.
So what do you suggest? So your suggestions are that we should, like for the first item, just so we're clear, what are you
Either remove the
suggesting?
complaint procedure, either remove the section concerning referring items to the complaint committee, or to develop a process where the complaint committee would screen all your complaints before sending it to
Which we haven't had a complaint committee meet
for at least 2 years.
for 2 years.
Yes.
It hasn't been terminated, but we never have had that, because that would put another layer in between the complaint, right? It actually would elongate the process, just to be clear? 'Cause
Yes.
And before it got to you. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, sorry.
I would like to also reference the continuation process. I would like to clarify the continuation process to implement limits on how often they can ask for continuances, and to limit the duration of a continuance so that they are not indefinite.
Exactly. So just to give an example,
Yes, this goes back to the previous sample of the 20 files that were continued that were yielded and are continued indefinitely, and they go back to 2011.
okay. Anything else?
That is it for now. It's a little bit too complicated to...
Yeah, no, that's a good start, though, because that's important to know. So, is there any comments about that? We haven't had a complaint committee since, it's never been, it wasn't terminated or anything like that, but we just have never had one because we've gone through the process, and since you guys were here longer, did you guys have a complaint committee and someone would look, the complaint committee would look at all the complaints prior to the administrator seeing them and prior to us getting them, and did that elongate the process? I would think that would. How did that work?
Well, I was never on the complaint committee, so I don't know for sure, but the complaint, all that I saw them doing, they would suggest that there was jurisdiction, and jurisdiction was, I think, determined by them, so we didn't have to talk about that. I don't know if during the complaint committee complaints were ever then forwarded for mediation, or mediation happened there. I don't know. Member Nee, do you know?
I think we decided kind of that, first of all, as far as mediation, the initial mediation was done by the administrator. And then as far as jurisdiction, even when the complaint committee voted yea or nay on jurisdiction, still had to come to the full task force. And we decided that Why repeat it?
Yeah, we don't, okay, that's what it sounds like to me, so, okay. Interesting, okay.
And then there is the situation, as with jurisdiction.
Point of order, five
Oh, we don't have
at
a
the
quorum
table.
now.
Oh. We can't even discuss?
No.
I thought we couldn't vote.
Yeah.
Continue on.
Concerning jurisdiction and other similar
No
issues.
more water, anybody. No more drinking water.
And also in regards to the 45-day rule, where the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force should be issuing determinations within 45 days of filing. It would be nice if there was, if not the administrator or a subcommittee could review the complaints as they come in to make rulings on jurisdiction if they should proceed further. And on other similar situations where it's questionable if it should be heard by the Sunshine
Full
Ordinance
task
Task Force.
force.
Yes.
But regarding issues jurisdiction, they can't vote on it as a subcommittee, so it has to come to us anyway, right? Isn't that the whole issue, and that was why it starts repeating itself? Like, that's why it becomes repetitious, so we're trying to eliminate a layer and just have it come directly here.
Yes,
correct me if I'm
and
wrong.
I was suggesting that I be allowed to do jurisdictions on certain items, but I would not be able to touch the complex items.
But yeah, so how would we determine what?
Yes.
That's the problem, because how would we determine which items you could, you know what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
Regarding jurisdiction, I have no problem, because I think jurisdiction oftentimes, unless there's I guess when there's a question of jurisdiction, that's when.
One sample that I've been getting recently is complainants have been asking the wrong departments for documents that they do not have. They've been asking the controller, the city attorney, for tax documents, which is in the custody of the tax collector.
Okay.
And that's just a they would ask 5 different departments for a document that they do not have. And it's relatively obvious, but I have to process it and call all 5 departments into the hearing.
That makes sense, because we've had to hear things that we've had those examples here too. So, what are you propose? What do you want to propose?
I will need to rethink that a little bit.
Yeah, because but I agree. Like, if there is a way to eliminate jurisdiction, content issues definitely need to come to the whole full task force. But jurisdiction, when there's some things that are, obvious, or a list of places like you're saying, then I think that in my opinion, it would make sense to have you kind of stop it so we get the cases that, are necessary, make sense. So, okay. Is that so why don't you look into that?
Yes.
Why don't you make a proposal for what you would like to do? So one item on the next agenda you can put on regarding the complaint process. Or, or think about like what you say, if we want to bring up the complaint committee and have them be the ones that look up jurisdiction, which I think, based upon the previous members, that added just another layer.
Yes.
So we don't want to do that. We want to keep it kind of
Think about
streamlined.
removing it from the procedure.
Yeah, okay.
And, yes.
Okay. Is there anything else around complaint?
There's so many that I am.
So we'll start, so we had 4 or 5 tonight, and then we can start with that. So for the next meeting, I think it would be good if we can just come up with one proposal from that issue, and then add that to the agenda so that we can then vote and have the public's input on that.
Yes.
That makes sense?
And again, if there's any recommendations from the members, I will document and present it to the full task force.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. Mr. Picarella, do you have any public comment on this issue? Okay. Can we go next?
Chair Grant, I'm going to ask if it would be possible for us to, I'm going to make a motion to, what's it called? To the next.
Continue?
Continue, thank you.
Yes.
Items 9 through 18, which is all the approval of the minutes. And I also have to say that I have childhood care issues that I need to deal with, and so I'm going to have to leave very soon, and we're going to lose
our quorum.
Okay. And so what I would ask is that if any of the remaining items, if there's something really pressing, could a member speak up or can we just continue everything until the next meeting, the April 2nd meeting?
We can take a vote on that. Yeah, because the EOT chair is not here.
Right.
Administrator's report, you gave us a copy, right?
Yes, so it was emailed to all members.
Okay, and I'd only go to number 21 if there's any future agenda items for me personally. So if anyone wants to make a motion to continue that, because we're going to...
So I would like to make a motion to continue items 9 through 20 till April 2nd meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any public comment on this?
The basis of the motion is because you won't have a quorum? Is that why you're making the motion to continue 9 to 20?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any objection.
Yes.
But that's not, it's a special meeting, that's not doing that. Yes.
A special meeting is the 26th.
Yes. So let me take a roll call vote, just in case.
On the motion to continue to April 2nd, items 9 through 20, Member Nee?
Aye.
Nee, aye. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Member David?
Aye.
David, aye. Member Highland?
Aye.
Highland, aye. Member Oka? Oka is absent today. Member Vice Chair Fisher?
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Chair Grant?
Aye.
Grant, aye. The motion passes.
Great, okay. So can you just go to the next item then?
Item 21, announcement, comments, questions, and future agenda items.
Okay, so our next special meeting is, when is it?
I believe it is March 26.
Okay.
What time is it,
4 o'clock.
Okay, so that time we'll just hear a bunch of cases. And that's all I have as far as any agenda items. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to say that unless I missed anybody, members Nee, Washburn, and I were at the, what was that? Ethics.
Sunshine and ethics training.
And Bruce, I remember Oka was there too. We were at the Sunshine Training, which we gave up our meeting for, so.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I think it would have been worse to have had our meeting and not had the ability to go to that. So yes,
Yeah.
giving up our meeting was
worth
good.
it.
The only thing, and I've already referred this to DCA Nick, whose last name I can't remember, Cola, was that the three, remember Washburn will back me up on this, the three attorneys up there just kept saying, if you have any question, contact our office. But then I went through the entire handout they gave us, no names, no phone numbers. I mean, there's like 700 attorneys, right? Who do you contact? So if you could do two things. One, give that feedback. If you're going to say contact our office, give me the administrator. I mean, we don't sit here and say, call Sunshine. We say, call Victor. You know, at least give somebody a direction on who to call. Because I don't even know for some of my questions, especially some of the Form 700 questions, am I supposed to call ethics? Am I supposed to call a city attorney? They were not completely clear on that.
I'll find out. I'll find out who was there, who offered to be contacted.
I will tell you this, that City Attorney Herrera introduced the event, so he probably knows who was there.
Okay. Is there anything else? Because I don't want to lose our quorum. Is there anything else you want?
No, nothing.
Okay, great. Do you have any public comment on any of the items for future reference? We're just doing future agenda items.
Thank you very much. Your time is up.
No, I just want to thank the task force members that are here tonight for being here tonight. But I would encourage you to encourage your colleagues to show up for both the special meeting at the end of this month and your final meeting, maybe, next month. Because there's 62 people who have not got their documents or have not been allowed to speak at public meetings. And to them, that's important. And you should, again, encourage your colleagues. I mean, they signed up for this job. They volunteered for this job. Nobody forced them on this task force. They should be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we adjourn this meeting, and I'll see you guys March 26th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all.
Thank you.
Thank you for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.